going to start in the South, then go to the Midwest, the West, and then the East, because that is how the bracket is set up based on number one seeds. So the number one overall seed, Alabama, will start in their bracket in the South. Then we'll go to the number 2 overall seed, Houston in the Midwest. The number 3 overall seed, Kansas in the West. And the number 4 overall seed, Purdue in the East. I will tell you, folks, I don't have all number 1 seeds. There are some teams in danger. I think there's a number 1 seed that could be in danger very quickly in the tournament. So we'll get into all of that. And Ross and I picked our first 4 as well. I'm proud to say that I am 2-0 of last night, thanks to Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Pittsburgh for getting their victories. Pittsburgh in a fantastic finish, 60-59, 2 shots miss at the end there, and Pittsburgh is able to get away with a win with about 3 seconds to go, a massive block by Guillermo. So a big shout out to him as well. A lot of great stuff coming up. We got 2 more first 4 games in Dayton, Ohio today. Fairleigh Dickinson against Texas Southern, the only team to make the tournament with a losing record, and Arizona State up against Nevada. So a lot of great stuff coming up where sports meets life. It is The Drive, our worldwide 2023 NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament bracket unveiling. Ross will unveil his by region first. I'll do mine by region second. You will see them come to you in real time on youtube.com and facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT. So if you need help filling out your bracket, watch my bracket show where I talk about the field of 68. Today will be another helper to your bracket. This is what Ross and I have. I'll show you at the end that it's literally physically written on paper. It's in pen. It's not in pencil. What I show you is my bracket. What Ross shows you is his bracket. It's the bracket we have to live with no matter what. So with that being said, I bring on the better half of this 2023 NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament, my brother, my family, and my co-host of many years for The Drive, Ross Turetsky. What's up, brother? How we doing?
That's how I'm doing. Arson and Coke are here to do the drive with a little bit of Jamie to get your morning right. Hopefully on a nice hump day Wednesday, the Ides of March for all you Shakespeare fans, and very pumped to do this. I think we've been talking about it off air. I think this might be like our 13th year doing this. Might have been like 2010 was the first year. We have to go back into the archives, but it's been a while and it's been a blast. Usually our brackets implode relatively quick. Hopefully we can keep them alive for a while. I do usually do pretty well with getting at least 1 or 2 teams in the Final Four. Sometimes I've picked the right national champion in the past, like Villanova or Kansas. But it is very hard to get majority of the bracket right. Like they usually say after the first day or 2 of the tournament, which I know it kicked off with the first 4 games last night, and there'll be more tonight. And the Pittsburgh game was exciting last night. I was watching some of that. But yeah, if the actual tournament really gets in full gear, first round, and it reminds me when we were kids going to school, where it was 12 p.m. all the way till after midnight. For the first 2 nights, it's just nonstop college basketball. When you have the down to the 64, it's so exciting. You would ask your teacher or try to trick your teacher into putting the games on during the daytime. Whether you had a test or you had schoolwork, you're like, please, can we have it in the background, even with no sound on if we behave ourselves? So at 12 p.m., high noon on Thursday, tomorrow, it's going to kick off full blast, and I'm excited for it, and it's going to go all the way to the wee hours of the morning the next day. So Thursday and Friday, in my mind, are the 2 best days of the tournament, because you have nonstop college basketball all day long. So for anyone who's just a hardcore college basketball fan into March Madness, so I'm very excited about it. And hopefully for all you kids out there, stay in school, get good grades, but also trick your teachers into letting you watch the tournament, because that's what everyone wants you to do. And that's what our founding fathers, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, would probably do the same thing if they had a March Madness tournament back in their day.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to paint a picture so that you all that don't know me will know me after this. This is what I did in March. I went to school at Christian Brothers Academy, in a very nice private Catholic school, great education, and I was there in English class, and I had been doing this forever. But let me back up a little bit. As a kid in elementary school, Our Lady of Pompeii, I want to shout out Barbara Jacks, Mrs. Jacks, my 5th grade teacher, because we'd be sitting there, it's March Madness, Syracuse making the tournament all the time, and she, out of nowhere, she's like, oh, do this work, whatever. We're doing work. We're at our desk. We're quiet. She wheels in the television and she says, if you're all good, I may turn on Syracuse to watch them in the NCAA tournament. I can't tell you how many times at Our Lady of Pompeii School that we watched Syracuse in the NCAA tournament. So I want to shout out all my incredible teachers for priorities. And then in high school, when I was in, I think it was 10th grade English. Yeah, I think it was 10th grade because 9th grade was Todd Benware. So I'm in 10th grade English, and in 10th grade, here I am. We had a substitute teacher, thank goodness, because the regular teacher that we had for our English class ended up getting fired because he was a special human. But we had our stand-in teacher here, and it was one of the brothers that came in, a fantastic guy, a great person that gave to the church and all that. So here he comes in. He's sitting right in front of me. He's like 2 seats in front of me. I had my Walkman, which, folks, by the way, if you like Star-Lord and you think Star-Lord's fantastic for his music choices and his Walkman, I would like to tell you that my music choices and Walkman came out before Peter Quill and Star-Lord.
Explain to the young kids of today and the kids who are going to college right now what the heck a Walkman is. I had a Walkman. I still actually have a Walkman. Yeah. Once in a blue moon, I'll use it. And I actually was one of those people who make my own, like, kind of pathetic mixtapes where you used to have to put a tape, you had it ready to go in the little slot in your little boombox radio I had. And then when I'd listen to the radio, when I heard like a rockin' jam like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC or Britney Spears, I'm not afraid to mention all the horrible music from the 90s, the boy bands. What was the other one? 98 Degrees, I Do Cherish You. When you heard a song you like, you clicked record, and then you would pause it until the next song you like. I still have a lot of these mixtapes. I've given them to my wife so she can listen to the cheesy music that I have for myself or to woo ladies very unsuccessfully. It did not work out very well. But I was doing this all the way through high school, even until the early years of college at Marywood in Scranton. So I know what you're talking about. But a lot of the young kids have no idea what the heck a Walkman is. A lot of them don't even know what a CD player is.
Let me do this because I have it on screen right now, folks. This is a Walkman. I have it with you right now. I had a yellow one. This is the upgraded chrome blue sports Walkman. Okay, it still has the giant Zach Morris antenna. And watch this, folks. The batteries that are in this have been in this for no joke. These batteries have been in this for about I don't know 17 years, and
almost 2 decades.
And this is proof that things that were made in the past were made to last. Things that are made now are made to break because people want you to buy new things. Where in the past, it was like Great Depression type of thoughts, World War type of thoughts of like, if we're going to make you something, we're going to make it to last. And that's why these batteries still work and this still works. And if I turn it on here, you can still hear that it is working on here. I can only play a second because Facebook and YouTube are weird about copyrights. But this right here, this Walkman, when I became Star-Lord this past Halloween and Lily became the wonderful Rocket Raccoon, I had the opportunity of bringing this out. And I was like, I got everything down to the Walkman. I had it playing while we were walking with my niece and my nephew to get ourselves. I have many nieces and nephews, including LJ and Lorelai. So I was out there Halloween trick-or-treating with my niece and my nephew, and I had the opportunity to bring this out. It's not a prop. I didn't buy it in some ridiculous costume store. I've had this forever, and it has this little thing where you can have it on your arm. It's got a little clip that I can put it on my belt. And this still works, folks. It works better than an iPhone, okay? And the batteries are better than an iPhone because iPhone batteries are built to die so that you'll buy new iPhones. So, and that's the truth, and I don't care if I said it because Apple is a...
It definitely is. They just want to make you get the iPhone 300 or whatever number they're on right now. Every year there's a new iPhone, so yeah, I totally agree. It might be prehistoric technology, the Walkman or the CD player, But that stuff actually works. I still even have my boombox. Well, I used to be like one of those corny guys you'd see in the '90s with the boombox going to the beach, thinking I was cool. Well, that was little Rossi doing that back in the streets of Brooklyn, New York, back in the early to mid '90s. So I thought I was cool. I'm sure I looked horrible doing it. I had like the acid wash jeans. I had tie dye shirts. I don't know what the hell my style was back then. But it was quite a scene. So it's not science fiction, the Walkman. When people watch that, the kids watch Guardians of the Galaxy, they probably think it's just made up. That's what we were doing back in the day, and we made the best mixtapes ever. So if you ever want to woo your significant other, make them a mixtape. All for boombox, I suggest.
Yeah, and I used to make the mixtape, and Greg just brought it up. I'd make the mixtape, and you'd be hearing this song, and you're like, oh my god, this is gonna go on my love mixtape, and you know it's my final song that I'm gonna send to this girl, and in the last like 27 seconds of the song, it's like, hey, this is Bob, and I just wanted to thank you for listening to this song by Keith Sweat, and I'm like, dude, shut your mouth. Don't do that, because then I had to go back to the beginning, retape it all over again, hope that no idiot talked over it. This is Billy Bob and Joe. You know, I mean, it's like, just don't do it. You know, don't. And I don't want that that voice hanging out over, because that was the thing, is you would make this tape, and she's like, how'd you get this tape? And it sounds so clear, and it's so good, and how'd you mix it? Because this was before Napster. This was before, you know, editing equipment and software and all this stuff. This is before everything. So when a girl heard you have a clear tape of 8 to 10 songs, she thought that you were the sweetest, kindest man who was like magical. I mean, she thought you were from a different planet. And the moment in like song number 4 or 5, when it would skip or it would go to, or you know, it's like, yeah,
I know. And when that DJ got on, he might sound a lot hotter than you, so he might have just stolen your girl from you. So it definitely kills the mood.
Well, that's the thing, is like, it's like Whitney Houston is on there, and as she's hitting that high note, you hear, we'll be right back on 45. Da-da-da-da. It's like, why did you, and you forget that it was on there. And so that's the sad part. But I'm going to bring up the Walkman because it's very special to my 10th grade English story that has to do with March Madness. So when I was in 10th grade, and we had our substitute teacher, who was one of the brothers at the school, and awesome, and literally one of the best people in the church world of all time that I've ever met on the planet. So here he is. I believe I think it was brother Kevin. And so I know his face. I could pick out his face like nothing. So I'm sitting there. I have my Walkman on my hip. I have run and this is before really good ear pods. So this is when the headphones, if you could get headphones that didn't go over your ears, and you could get little tiny headphones that you could sneak in, you were considered to be from the future. So I ran this up my dress shirt, put it in my ear, was listening to it, and I think it was the game where Butler went up and made a layup toward the end of the game to win a game. And so I'm sitting there quiet, and so a couple people know that I have this, but I didn't tell a lot of people because there's some snitches, okay? And we know what snitches get. So yeah, snitches get stitches if you let them live. So that's my quote. So the snitches get stitches. I do the ... if you let them live. So here I am. A couple people knew, so they're like, yo, Dan, what's the score? And this one kid, I think it was Stan, he kept asking me. I was like, bro, shut up. Like, you can't ask me every 3 seconds. You got to ask me like once every whatever, or send me a note or something like that. You can't be saying it out loud. So I'm sitting there listening to it, and out of nowhere, we're in English class, quiet study hall, brother Kevin hanging out, 2 seats in front of me, looking right at me. Butler hits the shot. And I was like, yeah! And he like, and out of nowhere, I just jumped up. Like I just randomly cheer for no reason. And he looked at me, and I was like, oh crap, I have detention now. And he leaned into me. Coolest thing, that one of the coolest moments ever in my life that's ever been done. He leans into me, and I'm thinking I'm going to detention. He looks at me, and he goes, what's the score? And I was like, that is a person who understands the madness of March. So with that being said, Ross and I are unveiling our brackets. Mine has come out of the lockbox It's sitting here with me right now. We're going to start in the South region. Like I said, we're going to go by region of the number 1 overall seed. So we're going to go Alabama's South bracket. We're going to go to Houston in the Midwest. We're going to go to Kansas in the West. And then we're going to go to Purdue in the East. So with that being said, Ross will unveil his. I will unveil mine. It'll happen in real time on screen and through audio. You're live with us worldwide on youtube.com and facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT. You're live on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com for internet streaming radio. It is now time to unveil the bracket. My wonderful, and like I said, better half of this bracket, Ross Turetsky, will bring you his South region when you're ready, sir. We'll start at the top of this thing. So we'll start with Alabama versus 16 seed Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and we'll go all the way down to 2 Arizona versus Princeton. So bring me down that list of the round of 64, and then we'll work it forward.
All right, so do you want me to go all the way in that bracket to my Final Four of that bracket, though?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is I want you to go down the list. I want you to do 1, 16, 8, 9, 5, 12. We're going to go all the way down, and that'll be your 64. Then I'll say round of 32, Sweet 16. So I'll prompt you, and we'll go from there.
All right, just want to make sure. I don't want to go too crazy here. Plus, I have
because normally I'll let Ross go, and then he'll be like da 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 da, and my national champion. No.
so, later, and then you have like 5 minutes to talk. And then I have my little man LJ here, who's 3 years old. He's combustible, so he's right now hanging out in my daughter's little frozen castle. So at any moment he might pop out and he might shout and scream. So just so you guys know, that's what we have. We have a combustible little toddler who at any moment could start screaming and ranting and raving, just like you'd be on the streets of New York on like the subway or something. You have no idea what's going to happen.
Well,
Same thing with LJ.
I would rather see my nephew LJ as the Red Hulk than Harrison Ford. So if he hulks out, I hope he doesn't. If he does, then I think that there's a future for him in the MCU. Go ahead with your bracket, sir.
All right. Well, the number 1 seed is Alabama, the Crimson Tide. I know everyone knows them for college football with Nick Saban, all the national championships. Alabama, one of the best teams all year long. Got the number 1 seed, was one of the top teams in the country. They do have a superstar player who has alleged legal issues. There was, talk about a gun being handed over, and there was a death involved. Right now, he's being cleared of criminal charges, so he is allowed to play, even though there was a lot of controversy within the last week or two of should Alabama not let him play, stop it, but then you risk the chance of maybe winning a national title, go to the Final Four, making tons of money for his school. Is it more important to win, or is something fishy could happen and he might have been a part of it? Should you hold out as a precaution, especially when someone's life was lost in that situation? It's a very tough situation because you don't quite know what he did or didn't do. But in the end, he's allowed to play, and Alabama is one of the best teams in the country. So number 1 seed Alabama, they're easily going to beat the number 16 seed. It's going to be Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. As we've talked about before, for the longest time, no 16 seed has ever been a number 1 seed. It's not going to happen here. But, of course, we finally got with Virginia Cavaliers. They got upset and were blown away that they got knocked out just a few years ago. That was 5 years ago. And then the very next year, they came back after that horrible disappointment and won the national championship right before the whole COVID pandemic. Just 3 years ago, imagine around this time is when the tournament got shut down, where the conference tournaments got shut down. You were about to go with the ACC covering Syracuse, and then the whole March Madness bracket all got shut down 3 years ago. And there was a lot of teams like Penn State and Rutgers and a lot of teams that were going to break their March Madness droughts to get in the tournament, and they all kind of got screwed over. But you had to understand because there was a horrible health crisis going on. But I digress. We're a little bit back to normal, and actually a lot back to normal because there's a lot of fans. We're all enjoying it as one. As you know, so with the World Cup, the World Baseball Classic for baseball, World Cup for soccer, the Olympics, people are now able to be together and be one and get to socialize, which is what fellow human beings need. So I'm very excited about that. But yes, Alabama, number 1 seed, is going to destroy Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. They're still on a hot streak, so as long as their star players are able to play, I don't see Alabama being able to be slowed down. So they easily win that game. The 8 versus 9 matchup, not much of an upset, but I'm going to go with the 9 seed, West Virginia. I just think West Virginia is a little bit better. And I think Maryland, they're just a little too spotty for me. And I think West Virginia is going to be ready to play, and they're going to edge them out in a close, about 5-point game. West Virginia moves on to the second round. 5 versus 12 seed, those usually right for the biggest upsets in the tournament are usually, you always see a 5 seed go down to a 12 seed. So you're like, out of the 4 chances, where is it going to happen? It's going to happen multiple times. I don't think it's going to happen here. It could happen, but I don't think it will. I think 5-seed San Diego State, it prevails over 12-seeded Charleston to move on to the second round. Then I talked about Virginia earlier. They're the 4-seed versus 13-seed Furman. Virginia has been upset by teams that were considered the lesser inferior teams. But I think here Virginia is, they played well enough this year, and as long as they don't play down to their opponent's level and they don't take it for granted, and I would hope that after what happened a few years ago, getting knocked off by a 16 seed, they wouldn't. I think Virginia prevails pretty easily over Furman. They move on to the second round. Now, one of my big Cinderella teams that I think is going to go quite a ways until that glass slipper shatters, I really like Creighton. I think Creighton has been on a heck of a run lately. Nice run in their conference tournament. I think 6-seeded Creighton, they're going to start their long journey, and they're going to knock off 11-seeded NC State, so I'm going with Creighton there. And then 3-seed Baylor, I have them knocking off 14-seed UCSB. So Baylor will prevail to go to the second round. I think they're just too much of a juggernaut. They're not going to be slowed down there. And then I have the 7-seed Missouri. This is going to be a little bit of an upset. I have the 10-seed Utah State knocking off Missouri. So I think that Utah State will prevail, knock off Missouri in a close game. I think it will be a tight March Madness game. That they moved on to the second round. And then for the bottom of it, I have number 2 Arizona. I think they're going to knock off the Ivy League champ 15-seed of Princeton. Princeton usually plays pretty tough. Once in a while they'll even win a game this tournament. It's very tough, though, when you're in such a low seed, you're a 15 seed, to knock off a 2 seed. It would be one of the big upsets of the tournament. I think they could scare Arizona, but I think in the end, Arizona will pull away at the end. But I think Princeton will give them a little bit of a scare, but Arizona's going to easily win that to go to the second round. So then, I guess you're going to preempt me now. We're going to well, I'll just go to the next part. I like to talk about it. We're going to go to the second round, Alabama versus West Virginia. I'm going to say Alabama is going to win that and win that pretty easily. Alabama's going to the Sweet 16. Then we have Virginia versus San Diego State. Virginia is going to continue on their nice roll coming out of the ACC. I think Virginia has just faced tougher opponents and they're more battle-tested. They'll knock off San Diego State. So Virginia going to the Sweet 16. I have Creighton, who, again, I said they're going to go quite a ways, in my opinion. I think Creighton is just red hot right now. They're going to actually pull off another big upset after beating NC State in round 1. They're going to knock off Baylor, and I think Creighton moves on to the Sweet 16. And then I have Arizona knocking off Utah State to go to the Sweet 16. I think they'll win that pretty bigly, as former President Trump would say. Mm-hmm. And then we go back to the Sweet 16. Up top, we're going to go with Alabama versus Virginia. I like Alabama here. I think Virginia, they're going to be a tough team to beat. I think this game it could be a one-possession game, go right down to one of those buzzer beaters, classic games from this tournament that we've seen in past years. But I think Alabama will get a scare for Virginia. Virginia will give them everything they can handle and more. But I'm going to go with Alabama to knock off Virginia and go to the Elite Eight. And then I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. The Creighton Blue Jays. Creighton's knocking down Arizona, the 2 seed. I think one of the top teams everyone thinks this tournament can make a big run. I think Arizona's going to lose to Creighton. I really believe in Creighton. I love how they're playing. So the Creighton's going to knock off NC State. They're going to knock off Baylor. And then they're going to knock off Arizona to go to the Elite Eight. But I think Creighton's journey ends at the Elite Eight right before we get to the Final Four in Houston, Texas. I'm going with the top seed, Alabama, prevalent, and going out of the South region bracket, the top seed of that bracket. Alabama knocks off Creighton, the Cinderella team that goes on this magical run. Alabama over Creighton. They pull away late in that game, win the Elite Eight matchup, and Alabama Crimson Tide are going to the Final Four in Houston, Texas come April 1st. And not an April Fool's joke either.
So Alabama, Ross has winning the South bracket. There we go. So that's Ross's unveiling of the South. It is now time for me to unveil my South bracket. So I appreciate what Ross had. I have not seen Ross's bracket. He has not seen my bracket. So with that being said, we have the opportunity of unveiling to each other as you see them in real time. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into mine here. Number 1, Alabama over number 16, Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I got that game right. I picked Texas A&M Corpus Christi to be in this one. So with my bracket being unveiled, I am going to go right here with Alabama to do this. I want to see some thoughts that came in. I'm beyond ready for the bracket release. Let's get going, Dan. Adam, patience, man, patience. And then John said, stop, sure did.
We're talking about Walkmans, and we're making lovely love letter mixtapes. We have priority. You'll get your picks, but you have to listen to our sad love stories and our love lives before that. You will listen to it, and then you will enjoy the best.
I like you. You'll listen and you'll like it. So that's it.
Arsenic Coke way. You take it and then enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll take it, and then we'll tell you what you took after you took it. So Alabama, that's Coke's way, and arson as well.
It's kind of like the McRib. It's mystery meat. You have no idea, or most hot dogs at stadiums, you have no idea what the heck you're eating. So just enjoy it. Put the blindfold on, close your eyes, and hope for the best that you're not in the bathroom for the next 12 hours.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's, well, I'm not going to say that. I could say it, but it's dirty. Alabama's playing number one. Alabama, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. Alabama, number one overall seed, is going to move on in my bracket. I'm also picking West Virginia. Of the two teams that I don't believe should be in the tournament, either one of them. I don't see either one of these teams that should be in this bracket at all, because Maryland and West Virginia could not make a better case to me than some of the other schools that were left out, like Vanderbilt, Clemson, Rutgers. I know Rutgers lost, but we're talking about before these games were played. Alabama, West Virginia will play up against each other. And then I have the College of Charleston taking down San Diego State. Yeah. The College of Charleston, 31 wins. And what were they told? You probably are not going to make the tournament unless you win your conference tournament. That's what they said to Charleston. Charleston has nothing to lose. San Diego State, they're a team in these 7-10 matchups, these 5-12 matchups. It's a danger zone. I do believe that they can win, and I'm not disrespecting the Mountain West, who has 4 teams in the tournament this year, 3 of them at-large teams, which shows that the committee likes the Mountain West. And I love seeing that they're going beyond the typical conferences to reach out to some of these other ones. Some questionable calls, but I'm picking the College of Charleston in this matchup because I think San Diego State is vulnerable, unlike one of the other teams in the conference we'll talk about in a minute. Virginia, I got them winning this game against Furman, but I'll tell you something. From being at the ACC championship game, Virginia, please understand something. You cannot go up against Furman and score a little bit of points to start off this game. Don't be getting 17 in the first half. Do not start out sluggish. You have the guys, you have the talent, you have the inside, you have the shooters, you have the guards. Do something. Be Virginia. You were not Virginia against Duke. They need to bounce back. If they're reeling from that and they still feel that loss, it could come back and bite them in the butt. The Virginia Cavaliers are moving on, but I'm very concerned about how they start this game against Furman. Creighton and NC State. NC State, in my opinion, has done some things to be in this tournament and other things not to be. The Creighton Blue Jays, who usually put me in a situation where I'm like, dang it, Creighton. But we'll see if they do it this year. I got them winning their first game in the 6-11 matchup. And the Baylor Bears are going to take down UC Hanna-Barbera. Santa Barbara going down to the Baylor Bears. I got Baylor winning, and going off of something we said yesterday with my dude Odyssey Jones of WWE NXT. He said he's the real cocaine bear. So I love that. Baylor's going to win this game and face off against Creighton. Next matchup we have Missouri and Utah State. I am not a believer in Missouri this year. Let's go with Utah State to win this game. They're going to be representing the Mountain West instead of San Diego State in the round of 32, and Arizona will handle Princeton after.
I won't do it, but you should do it.
Yeah, so this is the thing. Princeton came back and beat Yale, and I give them credit for that, but I'm going to go with the Arizona Wildcats. I'm not a big believer in the Pac-12. They didn't get a lot of teams in the tournament this year. I'm not a massive believer in them, but we'll see how we go from here. Alabama and West Virginia. I'm going with Fly Slamma Jamma Bama here because, like I said, I don't believe that Maryland or West Virginia should be in the tournament this year based on my analysis of looking at their season. Charleston and Virginia, I'm going with UVA. Charleston will win that game there, but UVA will face off against Alabama in the Sweet 16. And then we will have our next matchup here of Creighton and Baylor. This is a tough one for me, but I have learned my lesson. I shouldn't say I've learned my lesson, but the Creighton Blue Jays, just when you get into them in the Big East tournament, they lose. Just when you get into them in this tournament, I think they're going to lose. I'm going with the Baylor Bears in this matchup. This is reluctantly going with the Baylor Bears because I want Creighton to win this game, but I feel like I picked Creighton in the past, and it's bit me in the butt. Utah State against Arizona. I'm going with Arizona to move on here. So as we have these matchups inside of the nation's Sweet 16, who's going to get to the Elite Eight? That's going to be Bama moving on to the Elite Eight, and I have Baylor beating Arizona to move on to the Elite Eight. So we both have Arizona losing to the winner of Creighton and Baylor, and so of Alabama and Baylor. Who is going to be my Final Four team to come out of the South bracket? Well, I'm happy that you asked that question. Like I said, Ross and I have not looked at each other's brackets, and yet here we are. My winner of the South bracket is going to also be Alabama, the number 1 overall seed. Moving on here in the NCAA tournament. Fly slam a jamma Bama, and we head off from there to the Midwest as Ross will be bringing his picks first in the Midwest bracket as we head over to the 2nd overall number 1 seed and a team more than deserving of being a number 1 seed. I appreciate them, I respect them, and I thank Kelvin Sampson for everything that he's done. He has 30 or more wins in 3 of the last 5 seasons at Houston. As you will see, I have a special coming up with the American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Oresco, and I have my Q&A with Kelvin Sampson and my Q&A with Penny Hardaway and the players. That's all coming up today, but not before we unveil the Midwest region. Go ahead, Ross.
Yeah, Midwest region. I love the Houston Cougars. I think they're going to be the team to beat pretty much the whole tournament. They were the number 1 team in the country for a lot of the season. They got tripped up in their conference championship game, but I think the Houston Cougars, they're going to roll the 16th seed North Kentucky. Houston's going to easily win that to move on to round 2. And then we have Iowa versus Auburn. Again, like an 8-9 matchup like Maryland, West Virginia in the South bracket. It's close. It's hard to pick. Iowa from the Big Ten, Auburn from the SEC. I'm going to go with Auburn, though. I'm going to give Auburn a slight advantage. The 9th seed to knock off Iowa. They move on to round 2. Then we're looking for another 5 seed versus 12 seed. Can a 12 seed pull off an upset? Drake. And this is not my favorite Jewish rapper.
Drake?
Yeah, this isn't Drake or Drake's Coffee Cake from those Seinfeld episodes that we love. As much as everyone loves Drake and all his rap music, all about
Give me
all
that
the ladies
drizzle.
he's trying to get. Yeah, Drake, the 12 seed. Can they pull it off? Not here. The 5 seed Miami Hurricanes are going to slap Drake back to reality, back to Degrassi, and Miami is going to knock off Drake very easily, very handily. Miami moves on to round number 2. The 4 seed Indiana, I have an upset here. 13 seed Kent State knocks down Indiana from the Big Ten. They've been a powerhouse for years, Indiana, the Bobby Knight years, all the championships, all the big runs they've had. And Indiana, though, most people are going to have them moving on to this tournament. I think I'm looking for which are some of the lower, which are considered the weaker teams to knock off a high seed. I'm going with Kent State here. I think Kent State is going to be playing hot, and they're going to play with the house's money and with nothing to lose, which makes you dangerous. So just like Virginia, we mentioned against Furman in the other bracket, if you don't put away everyone would think a quote-unquote weaker team, you don't put them away early, you let them hang around for a while, that's dangerous because then they gain confidence, and then they could bite you in the butt because they can come back and get you. Just like those horror movies where it's alive. When you think he's done, he gets back up with his axe and he comes to get you. And I think Kent State takes the axe out and knocks off Indiana. So Kent State moves on to round number 2. And now we're going to go with Iowa State versus Pittsburgh, who won their matchup against Mississippi State in that thriller 1-point game last night playing. I know it's the first 4, but I call it a playing game. I love Pitt, but Pitt's had some injuries. If those players don't come back healthy, which they have to bounce back real quick to play Friday afternoon. And either way, I just think Pitt is going to make it close. They're going to if they ugly the game up, keep the game close, they have a chance. But I also don't like, between the injuries and how much they struggled at times last night in their playing game against Mississippi State, I'm going Iowa State here. I think the Cyclones are going to knock off the Pitt Panthers, even though I love Pittsburgh teams and my wife loves the Steelers. So Pittsburgh is one of those schools that I would like them to move on, but I don't. If I have to be unbiased, which I have to be, I'm going with Iowa State to knock off Pitt, and I think Iowa State moves on to round number 2. Then we have Xavier versus Kennesaw State. I'm going with Xavier, the 3 seed, to beat down the 14th seed very easily. Xavier moves on to round 2. We have a nice thing here. I work, of course, for Penn State Scranton. Cover a lot of their games. They're one of the satellite smaller schools of main campus Penn State and Happy Valley. So cover a lot of their college basketball games, now baseball and softball season. And it's very exciting. They would have gone to the tournament in 2020 most likely, but then of course COVID hit and there was no tournament. So finally they broke their March Madness drought. I think it's been since 2011, so 12 years. Just like my Jets, my Jets, Jets. Hopefully, we get the news that Aaron Rodgers is officially a Jet today when he comes on the Pat McAfee show.
Or else he's messing with him again because they just signed Alan Lazard. It's like, what What are you doing? It's like Green Bay, can you wipe my butt? New York, can you feed me grapes? Green Bay, can you put a fan in my face? New York, can you bring me on a trip? Green Bay, can you buy me a ring? New York, can you buy me a necklace? Dude, make up your freaking mind, dude.
he's dragging this out. Maybe he'll announce it today when he has his solo spot on Pat McAfee's show. But
it's going to be announced today at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on General Hospital on ABC.
It could very well with him. And he does all the State Farm commercials. I don't care for his diva, arrogant attitude where he thinks he's better than everyone. The whole thing with the I'm immunized, where he kind of wink, lied about he got the COVID vaccine. And then he ended up having to sit out when they still had the protocols. Luckily for him, they don't have the protocols anymore. And he cost his team a game when Jordan Love had to step in. And finally, Jordan Love looks like he's going to be able to take the reins over Green Bay because Green Bay doesn't want him. And they don't want to have to pay him $60 million a year. He's going to be 40 on December 2nd, same day as my little brother Henry. He'll be 30, so he's 10 years younger than him. But I don't care for his diva mentality. It's annoying. It's frustrating. But as a long-suffering Jets fan, I'm willing to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm willing to deal with his garbage because I need the 12-year playoff drought to finally end and go, hallelujah, hallelujah. We haven't had a really good quarterback since Joe Namath left, which was almost 50 years ago when he won their only Super Bowl back in Super Bowl III. Joe Namath supposedly is so desperate to let Aaron Rodgers come to the Jets, he will even let his number 12 be unretired for the year or two he's willing to play for them, which is pathetic that he's willing to play. Like, he has to put up with my stinky Jets. I've had to put up with the Jets my whole life. Aaron Rodgers, basically, I'm doing you a favor. Though you're paying me all this money, I'm going to get you all the players you asked for. He had a wish list. He wants Odell Beckham Jr., he wants Randall Cobb, his buddy from Green Bay. He wants Lazard, who they just got. The Jets they would have had no interest in if Rodgers didn't want to dangle the carrot and I'm coming. So maybe he comes today. Who knows? But I digress. I'm a frustrated Jet fan, as you can see. But
they'll unretire the jersey, and then he'll leave again, and they'll have to retire it again. And I tell everybody, if you want to know about Aaron Rodgers and what happened in that cabin, it is available to you, I believe, on Paramount Plus.
It's ridiculous. No. He paid all this money to go into a retreat of darkness for like 4 days.
Think about it. Think about it. They allegedly, the person that owns the cabin said he's in a darkness retreat, but at any time he can flip the switch to turn the light on. So they had power there. So he's on a darkness retreat where he could turn the light on and maybe nobody would know. And they said outside of people delivering him food. So if you have Grubhub and you have electricity, you're not on a darkness retreat. By the way, if you would like a live look into the life of Aaron Rodgers on the darkness retreat, you can see on Paramount Plus, I believe it is, or still in theaters, M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin.
Hey, it very well might be like that. Basically, what I think he did is I think he flipped the switch and turned the lights off, or didn't pay his electrical bill. So I think he calls up UGI right now. I think they would turn the electricity on. I think all you have to do is flip the switch and all that. So I don't care for a 40-year-old man going through a midlife crisis who I think really would rather just be the host of Jeopardy or be a State Farm advertiser pitchman than play in the NFL anymore. Yeah. And he's doing us a favor. I don't care how you brag that in order to get the answer to retire, stay a Packer, go to the Jets, he needed to go through a 4-day darkness retreat. I think it's pathetic. But I digress. Either way, what I started was Penn State. It's been 12 years since they've been to the tournament in March Madness. Would have ended in 2020, but we all know the pandemic shut that down. Penn State, the 10 seed's going to knock off the Aggies of Texas A&M. 10 seed Penn State. They've been good all year. They won over 20 games. They made a big run in the Big Ten tournament, went all the way to the Big Ten championship game, gave Purdue, the number 1 seed in the East region, a run for their money, only lost by 2 points, and I think went all the way to overtime. Penn State went on a heck of a run. They deserve to be in this tournament, and I think Penn State's not going to go out early. I think Penn State's going to give Texas A&M all they can handle. Penn State's going to edge them out, and they return to the dance after a dozen years. They're going to win their first game in the tournament. Penn State knocks off Texas A&M in a close one. They move on to round 2. And then lastly, that another Texas team, that Texas Longhorns, the 2 seed, they're going to knock off 15 seed Colgate, which I know you know a lot about their school and their coach you've talked to. It's not the Colgate toothpaste. Everyone might make that joke. Colgate, good school, but I think Texas Longhorns going to be too much for them to handle. Texas moves on to round number 2. Now we go to up to the top of that bracket for round 2. We're going to have Houston Cougars. They're going to knock off Auburn. I think they win pretty easily over Auburn. Houston, as I said, they're going to be a juggernaut. They're going to be hard to knock out in this tournament. So Houston moves on to Sweet 16. The Miami Hurricanes, after knocking off Degrassi's Drake in first round, Miami's going to knock off Cinderella Kent State, who knocked off Indiana. So I think Miami knocks off Kent State to go to the Sweet 16. For the Hurricanes, and then we go to Xavier. I like them going on a nice run in this tournament. Xavier's going to knock off the Iowa State Cyclones. Xavier goes to the Sweet 16. I think my magical run of Penn State, I know I would love for them to win the whole thing. I'll be rooting for Penn State. I've always loved them. I've loved the football team, and then, of course, loved covering this stuff for Penn State Scranton, all the sports I get to cover, and writing the articles on the website. It's a great school. But Penn State, I think their journey ends against another Texas school after they beat Texas A&M. I think the Texas Longhorns are going to be too much for them to handle. Texas knocks off Penn State to go to the Sweet 16. Now we go back up to the top of that bracket in Sweet 16. I think the Houston Cougars knock off the Miami Hurricanes. I think that will be a tough battle, but I think Houston will be too much, and Houston will move on to the Elite Eight. And then Xavier continues their Cinderella run, even though they're 3 seeds. It's not really a Cinderella run, but Xavier's going to pull off a big upset and knock off 2-seeded Texas, and Xavier's going to go to the Elite Eight, which I don't think a lot of people have. And I have Creighton going deep in the South, going to the Elite Eight. I have Xavier going to the Elite Eight in the Midwest. But in the Elite Eight, I think Xavier's going to give Houston a really tough battle. It's going to be closer than you would think, but I think in the end, Houston gets a scare. But Houston, we have a problem. They prevail in the end. Houston knocks off Xavier to go to the Final Four, and they basically get to host the Final Four because the Final Four this year will be in Houston, Texas on April 1st and April 3rd. No April Fools there, and I think Houston, the best team in college basketball for basically the whole season. I think they're going to the Final Four out of the Midwest, knocking off Xavier. And so far, I got Alabama Crimson Tide, a 1 seed, and Houston, a 1 seed, going to the Final Four. But I promise you guys, it's not going to go chalk. I'm not going to take these years out. We had it a little while back where there finally was all 4 Final 14 for number 1 seeds. It's very rare. I have 2 number 1 seeds going, but I can promise you, I vow to you, it's not going to be that way the rest of the other brackets. But right now, I have Alabama out of the South and Houston out of the Midwest going to the Final Four.
And unlike Aaron Rodgers and some of my ex-girlfriends, Ross keeps his promises. We're going on to the next one here. My bracket here in the Midwest. We'll go here with my bracket. And so Ross has Houston going to the Final Four. And that's obviously a Marcus Sasser. We're hoping that he's okay, his groin injury, and that he comes back and he is able to be out there for this team is very important. The Houston Cougars against Northern Kentucky. I have Houston moving on. A team I'm very proud of. A team that I appreciate inside of the American Athletic. Not the Big 12, the American Athletic. I'll say it again, the American Athletic. Houston Cougars have done a fantastic job over the last many years with Kelvin Sampson.
Say it one more time, because if you say it 3 times, then Beetlejuice shows up. So I think you need to do
American Athletic. There. Yeah. Yes, the American Athletic is the place to go, and and then seeing Michael Keaton, so a little bit of Beetlejuice. Houston winning this game. I would love when the Flash movie finally comes out in 2037 that we're going to see him run through time, and he not only meets Michael Keaton's Batman, but he meets Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice. That's what I want. So Houston's going to win this one over Northern Kentucky. The Houston Cougars getting credit, getting respect this season, and I wonder, is it giving respect finally to the American of the couple schools they give respect to, or is this the media and the coaches already thinking this is a Big 12 school, so let's make them number 1, so when they go to the Big 12, we could say, oh, they were number 1, they were number 1 seed, blah, 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 blah. Well, they did it as the American, and for whatever reason that you've given them respect, the reason that you should is because they play in a good conference, and they have been a fantastic team this year. 31-3, I believe, going into the tournament. Houston Cougars making it happen, doing some awesome things. They're going to move on. Iowa and Auburn. Well, folks, you know that the Big Ten had about 47 schools in the bracket last year. They don't have as many schools as that in it. They have 14 schools in the Big Ten. It doesn't make mathematical sense, and it also doesn't make mathematical sense the amount of teams that they've let into the tournament the last 2 years. If you have 11 to 13 losses, that's considered good. If you are the Big Ten and you are a team with 11 to 13 losses, you have a really good chance of making the tournament. And for some odd reason, if you're in the ACC with a season like that, you're not even considered. Iowa will fall to Auburn. I do not believe that the Big Ten is going to be doing much this year of making some hay here. They didn't do it last year, and I don't think they're going to do it this year. Maybe the committee should stop looking at who they like in the preseason and start looking at what actually happened in physical games that were played, and stop punishing the ACC because North Carolina was picked as a preseason #1 overall and you guys were wrong. Miami's
turned down. Did you see that? He turned down the NIT. They're like, we're moving on to next year recruiting. So Hubert Davis, they were the runner-up, almost won the national title last year until they blew their big lead in the second half to Kansas Jayhawks. And they're like, NIT invitation, thanks but no thanks, because they were the #1 team going into the season and didn't get into the March Madness dance, and then they refused to answer the NIT invitation. So I thought that was kind of interesting that certain schools will do that. It's almost like they put their noses and they scoff at the NIT invitation like that's beneath them.
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see what goes down here. But yeah, North Carolina. It almost feels like, because North Carolina made a lot of people wrong, they punished the ACC. It was stupid. You were wrong about it. But there's teams in the ACC that are darn good. Like one of those being Miami over Drake. So, and if you don't know what I mean by that, you got to go back and watch the video when Soulja Boy had a little issue with Drake. So that's how he said it. Miami over Drake. I thought maybe it was a sign yesterday. I went by. I was on 2 days ago. I was on the road and I went by Drake's Landing. And when I went by that road, I looked right at the street and I went, "Is that a sign?" And I said, "No, I got to pick Miami." Jim Larinaga, I like what he's doing over there. They don't give him the respect that he deserves, and he has had a fantastic season with the Miami Hurricanes, and I've had the opportunity to talk with him and the team. Sounds of the tournament, you're going to hear those coming up here very soon, as I want to kind of share those in a little rewind this week. So Iowa State going up against Pittsburgh, who I picked to defeat Mississippi State, and I'm picking Pittsburgh to jump over this line and get the... Oh, pardon me. I skipped one here before I go there. So I did Miami versus Drake and Miami winning. I skipped the Indiana-Kent State. My bad on that. So Indiana I'm picking to win this game. This is one of the teams in the Big Ten that I do believe is going to move forward. Kent State, they can make it interesting. This game's going to be played in Albany, so you guys can go see some really awesome pods here. Albany's going to get Miami against Drake, Indiana against Kent State. They're also going to get St. Mary's VCU and UConn Iona that we're going to talk about in a minute. Iowa State up against Pittsburgh. I'm going with Pitt in this game to continue that run from the first four and get at least one more victory in this tournament over Iowa State, who I didn't see a lot from when I did my analysis of them. Xavier is going to win their matchup in the 3-14. I got Xavier defeating Kennesaw State. And moving on here, Xavier having themselves a nice season, played in the championship game inside of the Big East tournament in Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball. In Texas A&M up against Penn State. This is a tough game for me. This is a tough game. This is a tough game for me. It's a tough matchup to pick, but I think that we're going to see in the round of 32 Texas A&M versus Texas. So I have Texas A&M going up in their win over Penn State, Texas over Colgate. But folks, please do not count out the Colgate Raiders. Matt Langle started the week with me on the heels of finding out where they're going to be. He joined the show live on video, and I had the opportunity to speak with him. Very excited about what's to come here with this Colgate team. I think if they get out to an early start, they hit their threes like they do, and they get out and they can get 30 points before the end of the first half. I think this could be a danger zone for Texas. So I'm not wholeheartedly thinking that Texas is going to get out of this one easily. I think Colgate will give them some fire, and Colgate is coming into the tournament as the top team in the country in 3-point percentage with 40.7%. But do not forget about their big men, their veteran status, and the fact that over these last few years, heading to the tournament in 4 of the last 5 years, thanks to winning the Patriot League tournament, the Colgate Raiders have shown us that they can push a lot of teams from a lot of different places, including the SEC and the Big Ten. So, and those are well-respected conferences by the NCAA selection committee. So I have Texas versus Texas A&M, but I do believe that, and that's also going to happen in the SEC very soon, but I do believe that Colgate can give them somewhat of a fight here. Houston versus Indiana. I have the Houston Cougars moving on against Indiana to make it to the nation's Sweet 16. And in the next matchup, I have Houston defeating I have Houston moving on here to win this game. And from there I have Indiana, like I said, defeating Miami. So Indiana is going to move on here to face off against Houston. So I jumped the gun there for a second. So I have Houston facing off against Indiana, and then Pitt Xavier. I have Xavier moving on here, an old Big East team versus a new Big East team in Pitt and Xavier, and then Texas A&M and Texas. I have Texas moving on in that game. And so that is our Sweet 16 coming from the Midwest. And then Houston taking down Indiana in the Midwest, and Xavier, who I want to pick here, losing to Texas in this matchup as the 1 and 2. The battle for Texas continues as Houston and Texas get to decide which team from Texas is going to be going to the Final Four in Texas, which is pretty ironic. And my champion of who's going to make it between Houston and Texas, I have the Houston Cougars as my winner here, moving on in the Midwest bracket to have more life here and continue their run. They have had fantastic runs over these last few seasons, as I made mention of, and I think that they have flirted with getting one step closer, and this year I believe they do, and Houston makes it to the Final Four, and that will be my bracket for the Midwest. So with that being said, Ross and I are going to take a quick step aside for a fast break. We will come back with the West and the East as we have an opportunity to let you know where we see the bracket going that has Kansas as the 3rd overall 1 seed in the West and the 4th overall 1 seed Purdue. Which one of them, or are both of them, in a danger zone? We'll tell you after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Salsa Q's, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus.
This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Proud to be here with you and appreciate you for being with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We're pulling some extra time here today because we have a lot of things to talk about as we break down our brackets in what we call the drive. That is the drive with a capital D and a capital R for Dan and Ross. We've done this for many, many years, and we're happy to do it again, bringing you the drive as we go through this entire NCAA tournament bracket for men's Division I, unveiling our bracket to you in real time, driving all the way to the championship game, and we are inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York, is where you'll find Cafe Kubal, as well as on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. So make sure you head out there today in their drive-through location. Let them know that Wake Up Call sent you and fill your cup up right. With that being said, we're trying to fill your cup up with all of our picks here today, letting you know exactly what we're feeling and what we're thinking. It's time for us to go to the West bracket, and as we have been doing, Ross will go first, I will go second, as Ross will unveil his bracket in the West and we'll go all the way through to his winner of the West as Ross takes this third bracket that we have here. We've been doing our brackets in the order of the number one seed. So the number one overall seed in the South, Alabama, we did their bracket. The Midwest with Houston as the number two overall seed. It now brings us to the West with Kansas as the number one seed in the West and the third overall. Your thoughts, Ross, on the West?
All right, as I promised you, and I'm a man of my word, as the Joker liked to say in Dark Knight. I'm a man of my word, and here we go. Yes. Well, number one is Kansas Jayhawks in the West region. I will not have them go to the Final Four, but you'll see why soon. Kansas, the number one seed, is going to trounce the 16-seeded Howard. Howard's it's a great university, especially academically, but in the end, it's overmatched firepower offensively. Kansas is just going to be too much for them to handle. Though one interesting thing is, I'm hoping that everything's okay with their head coach Bill Self. They, of course, went on their great run and knocked off North Carolina, that great second half double-digit comeback victory over North Carolina in the national championship game last year. But he had to miss the conference tournament, and they made it on a nice run, Kansas. But their coach was out. He was in the hospital, so I'm hoping he's okay. Hopefully he can coach. Either way, hopefully, the most important thing is hopefully he's healthy and everything's okay with him, that whatever is the issue, he makes it out okay. And he's a great coach. I know they love him there. So in many ways, I think it'll be a motivating factor where Kansas is going to want to win this for their beloved head coach, Bill Self, who's won a couple of national titles at Kansas. And they're really going to play hard for him. So Kansas is going to start off their West bracket. They're going to easily beat number 16 seed Howard, go to round 2. 9 versus 8 seed Illinois versus Arkansas. I'm going to go with a 9 seed, a slight upset. But I'm going to go with the Fighting Illini out of the Big Ten, beating, as some people call it, Arkansas. I'm going to say number 9 seed Illinois, just I think has faced a little bit better competition out of the Big Ten. I'm going to go with Illinois in a close matchup, beating Arkansas to go round 2. My first 5 versus 12 seed upset. I know you've had one already. I'm going with VCU. They've done it in recent past. They've gone legendary runs. It's going to happen again. I think VCU, who made a nice run in their conference tournament, have made some legendary runs in the NCAA tournament in recent years in the Big Dance. They're going to get it done. They're going to knock off St. Mary's. St. Mary's is in the same conference as Gonzaga. Usually they're the only team in that conference that gives Gonzaga a tough run for their money for their conference championship. But I think St. Mary's is a little overrated as a 5 seed. 12 seed VCU is dangerous, and they're going to pick St. Mary's off and start their nice Cinderella journey to go to round 2. 4 seed, we were talking off air earlier, UConn. They seem like a very dangerous team, stacked lineup this year against 13 seed Iona. Rick Pitino, great legendary coach for many years for many teams. He's also had some run-ins with the NCAA with issues. Of course, he had to lose his national championship at Louisville. They had to vacate the national title from a few years back, and he had some issues at Kentucky, and he went to the NBA for a little while, coached the Knicks, had some success many years ago, then coached the Celtics, did not have success after he left Kentucky, then went to Louisville, had success, but had NCAA violations. So we were joking, Iona is a nice local school from New York, and it's nice that they're in the national spotlight, going to the March Madness dance this year. And Rick Pitino is going to be on that big marquee stage again in the tournament. But we were also saying if they somehow find a way to pull off this upset, hopefully they would actually hold on to the victory and they would not find a violation, take the win away, which they've done before with John Calipari and Rick Pitino, 2 legendary coaches who have some checkered past in their coaching career. But I'm going to go with UConn to win. I think Iona will try their best, but UConn is way too much firepower for Iona to be able to hold up against them. 4 seed UConn goes to round number 2. Then TCU, which of course had a great run in college football this year. Small school that everyone kind of is like, what can you expect of them? They end up being Texas loves their football, their Friday Night Lights. They end up being the top college football team out of Texas. And TCU went on a great run until they lost the national title game after they beat Michigan in the semifinals, lost the heartbreaker in the conference championship to Kansas State, but then they got blown out, bludgeoned 65-7 by the defending 2-time champion Georgia Bulldogs. TCU, not just a football school, they're a great football school, but I think basketball, they're going to get it done. I think Arizona State is going to win their playing game against Nevada tonight, but I think number 16 TCU is going to prevail. The Horned Frogs are going to knock off Arizona State tonight, in their first round matchup to move on to round 2. Then we have number 3 seed Gonzaga, who always goes on magical runs, and they used to be the little engine that could Cinderella story with head coach Mark Few coaching this team in the Pacific Northwest that no one thought could do anything. And for years, their major guy they bragged about was John Stockton, the great Utah Jazz star player who came from Gonzaga. But they've gone a hell of a run since 1999, where they started to go from Cinderella, little engine that could, go to the Sweet 16. They've gone to Final Fours. They've had perfect regular seasons where they were favored to win the national title. They've gone all the way to the championship game, but haven't been able to get it done against the marquee schools once they've gone to the Final Four championship game. Gonzaga, I think, is going to go on another run. A lot of people don't really believe in them this year. They have their star center who left, their big man left for the draft, then decided to come back for his last year. So this is his final hurrah, trying to go out on top. Mark Few, can he finally win that elusive national title? Well, they're going to easily knock off number 14 to see Grand Canyon. It's not just a nice place you like to go visit out west, but I think in the end, Gonzaga is going to easily trounce them. So Gonzaga moves on to round 2. Then on the bottom of that Western bracket, I'm going to go with 7 seed Northwest of the Big Ten. Again, they just face tougher competition than a smaller school like Boise State. They've pulled off upsets before, at least in football, back in the day against Oklahoma, the Statue of Liberty play. But 7 seed Northwestern is going to knock off 10 seeded Boise State. Of course, the Boise State football plays in that blue field that we like so much. Northwestern goes, and then UCLA, the 2 seed, is going to knock off easily the 15 seed UNC Asheville. So UCLA goes to round 2. Back up to the top of the Western bracket, we have Kansas.
So wait 1 second. You had Northwestern, right?
Yes, Northwestern over Boise State.
Okay.
Yes, so Northwestern over Boise State, UCLA over UNC Asheville. So now we go back to the top of the Western bracket in round 2. I'm going with Kansas, and again, playing for their head coach, playing well for them, trying to defend that national title. Kansas going to knock off the Final Illini, go to the Sweet 16. Then I have VCU. Their glass slipper hasn't shattered yet. VCU is going to go on another magical run, and they're going to knock off UConn. I know you might think I'm crazy. Got to check my temperature. That I'm not going delirious, and I'm not maybe don't have the vid, or I'm losing my mind. But I'm going with VCU. I'm not having delusions of grandeur. I'm going with VCU to knock off UConn Huskies and go to the Sweet 16.
Ross just made a reference to Wicked, folks. I just want you to know that he said delusions of grandeur, and that's from Wicked. So.
Hey, I got a lot of culture. I got references from everywhere, between Drake and from Wicked, from everything. We got it all here. But yeah, VCU, UConn's a heck of a team. It's going to go down to the wire. I'm going with like one of those old school Valparaiso, what was his name, Bryce Drew, 3-point shots at the buzzer. I'm going for a classic VCU buzzer beater to knock off UConn, one of the upsets of the tournament, to go to the Sweet 16. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, even though it might destroy my bracket, but I'm going down with the ship. So Titanic, I'm going down with you.
It's also another song that's a song too. I'm going down with this ship. So isn't that by Norah Jones? So
I think. And speaking of Titanic, my heart will go on. And again, we've had this debate many times. You're selfish, Kate Winslet. You should have shared that little raft with Leonardo DiCaprio. You're a murderer. You should be in jail for centuries to come. Because no matter how romantic people say Titanic is, she killed Leo DiCaprio. She said, I'll never let go. She let go to let his icy hand go down to the Atlantic Ocean because she had to save her own behind, and she let him die, and it's all Kate Winslet's fault. I know it's a fictional character, but Rose could have saved Jack, and she didn't care, and she moved on without him. So
she held on to the jewel, and she let go of her man. That's what happened.
Yeah, she let go, so I will never forgive her for killing my sweet Leo DiCaprio. So I digress. VCU beats UConn, by the way. Okay, so now we're going to go with TCU and Gonzaga. I'm going with Gonzaga. I'm saying Gonzaga knocks off TCU, and even though a lot of people don't think that this is going to be one of those classic Gonzaga teams going on a run, I beg to differ. I think Gonzaga goes on a run. They're not going to win the national title, but they go on a run, and Gonzaga, after beating Grand Canyon, is going to knock off TCU to go to the round 16. Now, on the bottom of the Western bracket, UCLA versus Northwestern. I'm going with UCLA, the Bruins. I just think that's going to be way too much. Northwestern's going to try to keep the game close, try to ugly up the game, be physical, really bring down the score, because they're not going to be able to win a high-scoring game against UCLA. But again, UCLA, too much firepower out of the Pac-12. I know at times we don't always respect the Pac-12. We think they're kind of a soft conference compared to like the Big Ten that like Northwestern comes out of. But I think UCLA, and they don't always play the most physical kind of basketball, but I think UCLA is going to easily knock off Northwestern, go to the Sweet 16. Now, in the top half of the bracket, again in the Western bracket, Sweet 16, Kansas versus my Cinderella team. My heart will not let go of VCU. Well, they just let go. I'm a heel like in professional wrestling. I just let go of VCU, just like Rose just let go of Jack. I let him go
Traitor.
down to the I betrayed them. I let him go down, broke off his icy wrist that had the handcuffs on him, let him go down to the Atlantic Ocean and sink for the next century. Kansas is going to continue on their magical run to win it for their head coach Bill Self. The defending champion Kansas Jayhawks knock off VCU and end VCU's magical run in the Sweet 16. Kansas goes on to the Elite Eight. Then on the bottom of that bracket, I'm going to go with Gonzaga against UCLA. Gonzaga is going to win against UCLA. UCLA is the 2 seed. A lot of people are going to expect them to win that. Again, as we were spoken off air, we're like, is this a year where Gonzaga is going to be a weak, kind of a higher seed as a 3 seed? Are they going to make a magical run to the Final Four after all those years where they kind of let our hopes up? They've gone from that little, small, mid-major school to now a powerhouse, but they've fallen short in the championship games. I think Gonzaga knocks off UCLA, and they will go to the Elite Eight. And now, for my Final Four, who's going to Houston, Texas? I promised you it was not going to be a number 1 seed. And again, I'm a man of my word. I breed on chaos. I just want to watch the world burn. And that's what's going to happen. As much as I love Bill Self, and I know they were going to try to win this for their coach, and I hope he's healthy, he's okay, and they're going to try to win defend that national championship. They very well can. I might be drinking the Kool-Aid because you saw how far I let the VCU go. I'm going with Gonzaga to knock off the 3 seed. Gonzaga knocks off number 1 seed Kansas. My first number 1 seed goes down in flames, and their heart will let go. It did just let go. Gonzaga knocks off Kansas Jayhawks. There will be a new national champion crowned this year in college basketball. There will be no defending champions, which is very rare. You usually don't see a defending champion in any sport, whether it be football, baseball, anything. College basketball, especially with the turnaround with the one-and-done players, a lot of guys leaving, so it's very rare you get guys with chemistry who are there for years to come. It's very hard to sometimes follow these college basketball players because so many of them leave after 1 year. The marquee names, or even the mediocre ones, go to the NBA draft even if they don't get drafted. But Gonzaga has a little advantage. They have chemistry for a powerhouse. They have a lot of their players stay for the 3-4 years to their upperclassmen. Mark Few, been their head coach for many years. And they have their center who's going to try to go out on top and came back out of the NBA draft back to Gonzaga to win it all and to finally put his stamp and legacy on this program. And I think Gonzaga is going to get it done. Gonzaga, in a close slugfest, I think it's going to be like a 3-point game. Gonzaga knocks off Kansas late to knock out the defending champions. Gonzaga is going to go out of the West bracket. My first number 1 seed goes down, Flames. Kansas goes down. Gonzaga beats Kansas, goes out of the West to the Final Four in Houston, Texas.
And what we learned about this bracket more than anything else from Ross is that Kate Winslet is greater than the iceberg that took down the Titanic. So she is greater than. She is above it. She is a bigger villain of the movie Titanic than the iceberg was.
I think she's one of the worst villains in cinematic history. I think she's worse than the Joker. She's worse than anyone. She's worse than like the Silence of the Lambs guy, Anthony Hopkins, the lotion on the skin, Buffalo Bill, any of those.
Wouldn't it be crazy?
She's worse than them.
Wouldn't it be crazy if Kate Winslet, right before she let go of Leo, as she's looking him in the eyes, she's just like, I just want to watch the world burn. I mean, and that's, she could have shared the door, and I said if I was Leo and I knew she was going to let go, even though she said she wasn't going to let go, I would have turned the knob on the door and opened it so she could fall through with me. Because if we're going together. And what's really bad when you look at this is you look back on this movie, this 4-hour movie, and you say to yourself, there was so many other pieces of debris he could have sat on. There's no reason why he didn't have to do it. And you know what? When she said, number 1, she didn't love him because she didn't share the door. Number 2, they could have taken turns. Number 3, there was other debris to get on. Number 4, she said she never let go. Number 5, she held on to the jewel like some people do, as opposed to the person that you allegedly love. And so ultimately, Leo is a true hero, and Rose is one of the greatest cinematic villains of all time. Greater than Thanos, because Thanos kept the jewel. She screwed over the human and then threw the jewel and said, I don't want the jewels or the human. So Thanos was like, screw humans. I'm going to get rid of half of them, and I'm going to do it with these jewels.
Thanos was, and he was insane in those movies. He thought he was doing good work. He was like, I'm protecting the environment. That overpopulation got wipe out 50% of the world. Plus, it's also a comic movie, so it's not real. So it's okay. None of it's real. But with Rose, it was a lot more betrayal because it was personal betrayal, which is the worst. It was one-on-one. Could have shared, could have saved your beloved, and you could have lived happily ever after, live your Disney dream come true, and instead, you let him go, and you made sure you stayed warm.
And think about
She's
this.
the murderer. Thanos is the hero.
Think about this. Think about this. If you think that Rose from the Titanic, played by Kate Winslet, isn't the same as Thanos, think about this for a second. When Thanos threw his daughter Gamora on the planet, remember when they go to this planet and and he throws Gamora over the side. He throws her. He lets go of the person that he loves to gain a jewel, the Soul Stone. Kate Winslet in Titanic let go of the person she loves and got to gain the jewel that was given to her. So in a way, if you look at it together, Kate Winslet is the Thanos of the Titanic cinematic universe, and Thanos is the Kate Winslet of the Marvel cinematic universe. And that's the truth. So with that being...
I agree. It's perfect symmetry. And I know when we started this show, the listeners and you and I, we don't really go over much. We just kind of like let it fly on air just because we want to see the sparks fly and see what happens. I don't think anyone expected that we would go down that road, but I think we went down the rabbit hole, and I think we're all better people for it. So I think hopefully we made your day. I know you made my day, and let's continue all the great enjoyment. I think Arson and Coke got it done. And I think it's scintillating conversation.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. There's two villains in cinema that both let go of the ones that they love to gain a jewel, and that was Thanos and Kate Winslet. So I'm just telling you the truth.
I still think Thanos is the better person, which is sad.
Yeah, it's interesting. So here we go with my bracket. But it is true. She's greater than the iceberg. In my bracket in the West, I told you that, like Ross, in the South, I had the number 1 seed Alabama. In the Midwest, I had the number 1 seed Houston. I will also not have the number 1 seed move on in this bracket, and we'll talk about how. So Kansas, to me, is going to defeat Howard in this game. Howard, a very well-known HBCU. Appreciate Howard and all the work that they have done and bringing in the talent that they've brought in recent history here. But I'm going to go with the Kansas Jayhawks to win this matchup. And God bless, more than anything else, Bill Self to heal completely and for good, no matter what, through God, and to handle well whatever is coming his way, has come his way. May he be fine, have the best doctors, best medicine, best everything, and may his loved ones be healthy, safe, and happy with him as well. God bless to all of you. In Jesus' name, in my prayers here. So, Arkansas and Illinois, I'm going with Illinois in this one to win this game. The Fighting Illini will move on. There's a weird thing when I broke down the brackets that if you beat Illinois, you got into the tournament. A lot of teams that beat Illinois, especially when Illinois was ranked, but in general, if you got to win over Illinois, it was considered a big quality thing. I don't think Arkansas is going to get one. I think Illinois is going to win this game. And I got to turn the camera back on for the next one, the next pick that I make, because I bought this hat a long time ago. I bought it because I like the coach that put this team on the map. And when this coach put when this coach put this team on the map years and years later, so I've liked them for a long time. I liked them to the point where I was invited by fans of them to be part of their Facebook group. And I got to be part of this group. I think I'm still part of this group of these fans because of my love and my passion for this school. They saw it, they listened to the show, and they appreciated it. So it is my honor and my privilege to put on one of my favorite hats of all time because I went on campus when I drove from Syracuse, New York to Jacksonville, Florida, and that is your VCU Rams. I'm going with VCU, folks. I'm going with Virginia Commonwealth, the Rams, to win this game. This is one of my most favorite hats to wear. I love it. It's soft, it's comfortable, and it fits my head perfectly, just like they fit the next round of this bracket perfectly. I'm going with the VCU Rams, and I had to get my prop to do it. So the VCU Rams will move on here in the West bracket. I have them going by St. Mary's St. Mary's, it's tough because they had themselves a pretty good season, and yet here we are again, and here's Gonzaga again doing what they could do, and VCU is going to take care of St. Mary's. Next game that we have up here, UConn and Iona. What I love about this is that Rick Pitino used to be in the Big East. UConn is back in the Big East, so you got Pitino against the Big East, and this is a great game. It's a great matchup. It was a great decision by the committee to make this happen. I also think that this is potentially the last year of Rick Pitino pretending that he's not going to go back to one of those big programs. And when I say big, I don't want to take anything away from the Iona Gales. I think Rick Pitino is going to find his way into the Big East, ACC type of thing. I think we're going to see an emergence of Rick Pitino into one of these conferences, because this is what happens. When you do bad things and you get in trouble when it comes to sports, you go away, you pretend retire, you wait a year or two,
People forget, yeah.
you come back, you go to a school that not a lot of people are paying attention to, you fly under the radar, and you spend a few years there, like Ross said, you hope people forget, and then you come back into the program. Rick Pitino is going to be making a resurgence, and he's smart because Jay Wright, Coach K, Mike Bray, Jim Boeheim, Roy Williams have all retired, and this is when he's going to make his move, but not before he goes up against UConn and loses in this matchup. I have UConn.
The only thing I was going to say quickly, though, you're talking about people who've done bad things. Like Rick Pitino, I mentioned John Cabaret. I am very excited about one of your guys that you've loved, and I was a big fan of growing up as a kid with the Toronto Raptors, Damon Stoudemire, who's been an assistant coach recently for the Boston Celtics. He's going to be the new head coach in the ACC for Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
They're going to get to cover him, and I'm very excited that Damon Stoudemire is going to be a head coach in a big conference in the ACC, and that's going to be exciting. Covering the ACC tournament like you do, covering Syracuse when they play Georgia Tech, that's going to be very cool when you get to interview one of your childhood idols.
Yeah. One of the two, if somebody asked me with over 4,000 people being on the show, if you ask me who are the two people that you want to talk to the most right now, without question, Damon Stoudemire and Fred Taylor. So by the grace of the most amazing, most incredible, and ever kind gods, and the Lord has blessed me with a lot of things. And my mom said to me earlier that day, she said, Daniel, whether you believe it or not, I want you to look at me when I say this. The world around you is changing in a good way. Things are opening up. Things are changing. Around you, things are happening. And good things are going to come. Hours after she said that, Ross sends me that message about Damon Stoudemire. One of the people in my top 2 that I want to interview in this entire planet. Been a fan of the Raptors since I was 9 years old, from the moment he stepped onto the floor, and even before that. I have a Damon Stoudemire card collection of over 220 Damon Stoudemire cards from Arizona to Toronto and so on from there. I am such a fan, so excited of anywhere he could have gone, of over 350 plus programs. God is great. Opportunities arise. You take them when they come. Damon Stoudemire, I look forward to talking with you soon, by the grace of God. With that being said, I am going with UConn over Iona. And how about this? UConn sneaking back into prominence, a 4 seed. After everything they've been through, sneaking back in after getting into the Big East once again. TCU going up against Arizona State, Nevada. I'm going with Nevada in this game, so I want to underline Nevada here. But I'm picking TCU to win the game after the play-in game tonight between Arizona State and Nevada. I got TCU winning this game. By the way, let's talk about another Big East blast from the past name. Jamie Dixon, still coaching at TCU, still kicking butt. And Pittsburgh finally doing some good things again. They've been through a bunch of coaches on the way to Jeff Capel, because when Jamie Dixon left, so did the success of Pittsburgh. So I know Capel's trying to bring it back up, and I respect him for doing it. Jamie Dixon, respect him as a coach. And when you talk about coaches in the Big East, hair slicked back, just those guys that look like mafia guys that you don't want to mess with, Jamie Dixon's one of them dudes. So do not forget about him. Don't think, oh, Jamie left Pittsburgh, he died to me. No. Go watch TCU, watch them Horned Frogs, give the credit where credit's deserved. The next matchup here, Gonzaga and Grand Canyon. This is where I'm sad. Grand Canyon hasn't been a D1 school for a long period of time. This is the second time they made the tournament in the last few years. I'm ecstatic for them. They're ripe for an upset. The problem is they're playing Gonzaga. And so I got Gonzaga going. This game might be close at a certain point, 30-20. Then Gonzaga is going to blow the doors open. I wanted Grand Canyon to get a victory, but they've put them up against Gonzaga, and I can't have that happen in my bracket. Northwestern and Boise State. This game is truly a pick'em game. This is a toss-up. I'm going with the Smurf Turf, and I'm going with Boise State to win this game in this matchup. And the final one here, UCLA against UNC Asheville. If people don't know it, UNC has 5 campuses, I believe they have Division I schools. And Asheville, congratulations for making it. But I have UCLA taking them out of the tournament as UCLA advances. So that brings me to Kansas and the Fighting Illini, the Jayhawks, against the Illini. And of all the schools in the Big Ten, the one that I respect probably more than most this year is Illinois. But I have Kansas winning that game over the Illini here. So I have them moving forward. And then with VCU and UConn, what will Dan do? What's Dan? Wait. We're going to put me back on screen. What is Dan going to do? Is Dan going to say the resurgent...
Dan's going to speak in third person.
Yeah. So what now again, and I do that very, very jokingly because I think people that speak in third person in real life are crazy. But so where will I go is the question. Will I go to the reemergent UConn Huskies? Will I go to VCU? Will I put this hat back on, or will I leave the hat off? Could I go UConn? Could I go a reemergent team? Or do I go with the team that I think could make a run here in the bracket? Well, folks, for those of you watching on screen, it's time to go with you. I'm just kidding. VCU, baby. VCU's going to do it.
You got the courage. Go VCU.
VCU is going to win another game here in the bracket. They're going to move on to play the Rock Chalk Kansas Jayhawks. They're going to do it here. And so we are moving on here in my bracket in the West. And I have Kansas taking on VCU in this matchup, folks. And then after that, we have TCU going up against Gonzaga. And where will I go with this? Jamie Dixon, Mark Few, 2 coaches I appreciate and respect. I'm going with the Zaggy Zags in this one. And Gonzaga and my man Timmy. And what can we do with this final run for him? And so Gonzaga will take down TCU. I got a sea of darker colors here. The blues and the purples here with TCU, Nevada, Gonzaga, and all that. And then we have Boise State going up against UCLA. And I'm going to go with UCLA to move on here in this matchup. So that leaves me with these last 4, which I think is a very interesting and enticing and exciting bracket here with Kansas, VCU, Gonzaga, UCLA. Where will I go? Kansas is going to take down VCU. I won't wear the hat the third time, but I will wear it twice. And folks, as they continue to win, I'll proudly wear this hat. My VCU fans, I hope I'm still a part of your group. I hope you're listening because you started listening years and years and years ago to the show. It could have been 10 years ago, 8 years ago that you started listening. Thank you for your love and support. Kansas is going to play who? What? Are they going to play the Bruins? Are they going to play the Bulldogs? 2 B's. Who's it going to be? Truly, pun intended. Where will I go? Will I go with John Wooden's past, or will I go with Mark Few's present and future? Well, few people may pick Gonzaga, but I'm going with Mark Few. Gonzaga's going to move on here in the tournament. So we have Gonzaga going up against Kansas, and this bracket looks like Ross's bracket. And I told you folks that I was not going to have a 1 seed move on from this bracket. I told you that was not going to happen. As we've gone with the villains in today's show, as they would say from the Joker played by the late, great Heath Ledger, I'm a man of my word. So I am going with Gonzaga to move on here in the West bracket. Gonzaga, you know what I said going into this tournament? I said you make them a 3 seed, I think they become more dangerous. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't make them a 1. There's a lot when they're on that 1 line. I don't like the 8-9 matchups for the 1s because I think that the 8-9 could go either way, which is why it's so close. And it's a danger zone, and we'll talk about it in the next bracket. So to not be a 1 seed, to not be a 2 seed, to be somewhere in the middle here, I like it. And remember, Syracuse won a national championship when they were not a 1, not a 2, but a 3 seed in 2003. 20 years later, 3-seeded Gonzaga is going to bring me to the tournament, because somebody asked me a while ago, if Syracuse did not win, if Syracuse was out, if they got bumped out of the NCAA tournament, who would you want to see win the tournament? I said my heart would pick Gonzaga, but my mind is going with Gonzaga here because I'm an impartial broadcaster on my show, so my heart would love to see him do it. I think that this year is going to be a wonderful run. Timmy knows what he came back for. He knows what he wants. This team is on a mission. He is on a mission, and before there is an end to his time with the Bulldogs, Gonzaga will be back to the Final Four, and Kansas will be out of this one. The first number 1 seed to be bumped out by both Ross and I in the bracket as we head to the East. Your thoughts, Ross, in Purdue's bracket, the final number 1 seed?
All right, in the East, last but not least, Purdue Boilermakers. They were the number 1 seed in the country for most of the year. I like them to make a pretty nice deep run in this tournament as well. But as I told you before, watch out, number 1 seeds. I picked Alabama Houston to come up in the Final Four out of the South and Midwest region. You saw what happened in Kansas? Knocked them down, and in the West, as Gonzaga knocked them out. I think Purdue's going to get knocked out, but it's going to take a little while. They're going to take on the 16 seed. I'm going to go in the playing game tonight. I'll go with Texas Southern beating a fellow 16 seed FDU. So then I think it'll be Purdue Boilermakers destroying Texas Southern in their first-round playoff game. Purdue will win bigly. That 8 versus 9 matchup, I'm actually going to finally go with an 8 seed instead of usually my 9 seed that I've been going with. I'm going to go with Memphis, Penny Hardaway School. Memphis is going to edge out FAU, and they will get to the second round to play Purdue. Then I know you were talking to me off air. Can Duke be right for an upset? A 12 seed like Oral Roberts, not Oral Redenbacher, the popcorn chain that we like, the microwave popcorn. Can 12 seed Oral Roberts knock them out? I don't think it's going to happen. I think Oral Roberts can give Duke a challenge. Duke definitely has to put them away early and not underestimate them. It could be closer than we think. Duke, who's had a very up and down season, especially the first year without their legendary coach, Coach K, who now he sort of is doing like Aflac commercials like Nick Saban and Neon Dion, primetime Deion Sanders does. But yeah, the first year without Coach K, Duke had an up and down year, but then they went on a great run in your ACC conference tournament that you covered, and Duke won that conference tournament, got the automatic bid. They're a 5 seed. Can't overlook Oral Roberts. I'm going to still go with Duke. I go with the 5 seed Duke Blue Devils to beat Oral Roberts pretty easily. Then we're going to go with a 4 seed, the Tennessee Volunteers, knocking off 13 seed Louisiana pretty easily. Now, here's an upset. You know how much I kind of despise the cheaters. I like who would do things with integrity and honor, and I don't really believe in this guy. He does things with integrity and honor, even though he's had lots of success in the Final Four and winning national championships, and he's also had things taken away from him for doing alleged indiscretions in the NCAA. John Calipari's Kentucky Wildcats, the 6th seed. I have them going down in round 1. You know, I'd like to watch the world burn. I'm going with 11 seed Providence out of the Big East, knocking off Kentucky. Providence knocks off Kentucky. Calipari's school is one and done, just like a lot of his star players are one and done. Providence knocks off Kentucky to go round 2. Big upset alert there. Then with the 3 seed, I'm going with Kansas State. I'm going to have them easily beat 14 seed Montana State to go round 2. Now Michigan State, Tom Izzo can never count this guy out. They always go on long runs. They go to Final Four runs, even when years you think they're having a down year. Michigan State Spartans play very physical basketball, rebound well, tough physical defense. Michigan State, Izzo, I don't think they're going all the way to the Final Four, but I think they're going to be a tough team here. They're going to knock off the 10-seeded USC Trojans. Michigan State's going to go on to round 2, and they're going to win a physical close matchup there. Finally, at the bottom of the bracket, I'm going to go with 2 seed Marquette, who went on a magical run to win the Big East Tournament Championship at the Garden. Marquette to continue on, use that momentum that they had, winning that conference tournament, which a lot of people didn't think they could do. Marquette, first time they won that conference championship in the Big East, Marquette's going to knock off 15 seed Vermont, even though I think they're going to win pretty easily. You brought up as a warning, you remember years back, Syracuse, with Jerry McNamara, G-Mac just got his number retired, beloved Scranton native got his number retired. A lot of people thought they would easily beat Vermont. And the place where Bernie Sanders calls home, Vermont, knocked off Syracuse in one of the big upsets in recent memory. Could Vermont do that to Marquette? Marquette flying high after winning their conference championship? Could happen. Don't think it will happen, but it is possible. So watch out against a possible upset with Vermont. But I think Marquette wins that one. Now we're going to go back up to the top of that bracket. Purdue versus Memphis. I'm going to go with the Boilermakers here. Purdue, as I said, was number one seed for number one ranked team throughout a lot of the season, and then Penn State almost knocked them out in the conference championship game of the Big Ten. Give them a run for their money. I think Memphis will give them a run for their money here, but I think a possible upset alert here. But I think in the end, Purdue, a little too much firepower. Purdue will outlast Memphis, and they will go on to the Sweet 16. Now here's one, and I know they're actually the lower seed, 5-seeded Duke versus 4-seeded Tennessee. But historically, Tennessee's great in women's basketball with the late great Pat Summitt. But in men's college basketball, they've not had great runs. Duke has had all the success in the world with Coach K. I'm going to have Duke. They only win the one matchup. They beat 12-seed Oral Roberts, stave off an upset with the 5-12 seed. But after winning their conference championship, I'm going to have Duke go down in round 2. Tennessee Volunteers edge out Duke in a close ball game. I think we'll go down to about a 3-4 point game. I think Tennessee knocks off Duke, and they will go on to the Sweet 16 and not the Duke Blue Devils. And in my mind, it's a little bit of an upset, even though Tennessee is the higher-ranked team. Then at Providence, after their big upset of John Calipari's Kentucky Wildcat team, Providence, I'm going to have them get another upset. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid like I do at VCU. Providence, I want to watch chaos. Providence is going to knock off Kansas State, the 3 seed. Providence, the 6 seed. No, Providence, the 11 seed. They beat the 6 seed Kentucky. They're going to knock off 3 seeded Kansas State. Providence is going to the Sweet 16, not getting another big major upset.
Wait a minute on here. So, you're saying you're drinking the Kool-Aid?
Yes. I'm going through the brick wall.
Yeah. But there's something to be said.
I'm the Kool-Aid man. Going to smash through that wall and going to rescue all my people as we're going to get another crazy upset in my delusional mind.
So Ross picks Providence to defeat Kentucky, then picks Providence to defeat Kansas State, and I just want to do a little more play on words here. He's drinking the Ed Kool-Aid because Ed Cooley is the head coach of the team, and some people are saying, could he go to Georgetown? Ed Cooley's been at Providence for a long time. You're drinking that Kool-Aid and getting that thing going. So you got Ed Cooley and the Providence Friars fans right now worldwide going, oh yeah. So that's Ross has Providence going to the next round. I like it. I just needed to do the Kool-Aid thing. Back to the show.
I think Coolio, the late great Coolio, another late great legend. Put on a Gangsta's Paradise from Dangerous Mind, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Ross, if you win, they're going to consider you a gangster of this draft, or of this NCAA tournament.
I'm a gangster, or I need to be in a straitjacket, and I need to be in an institution of some sort. It can go either way. It's probably going to go the institution route, but I'm saying some of these crazy wild picks are going to pan out. You got to get wild in March Madness. Let the madness of March begin.
Either the Joker in a straitjacket, or a gangster in paradise, as Ross will be one of the only people to pick Providence to go to the Sweet 16.
Either way, I'm going to have fun doing it. Whether I go down with the ship, I'm going to have fun with my crazy predictions.
I love
That's
it.
What I can tell you.
Keep it going.
So now, as I said, Providence goes Sweet 16. Michigan State, who survived against USC, Tom Izzo, you always trusted him in March. They go on those Final Four runs. I think they only get the one win, though. Michigan State is going to knock off USC in the round 1. But in round 2, I think Marquette going to continue on the catalyst, the momentum of winning in the Garden, in the Mecca, Madison Square Garden, that Big East tournament. They knock off Vermont. They don't get upset by Vermont, even though watch out for Vermont just in case. Marquette's going to knock off Michigan State. Michigan State keeps it close for a while. Marquette pulls away in the end, wins by about 10, goes to the Sweet 16. Now up to the top of that bracket again. Purdue, the number 1 seed, against Tennessee, who just knocked off Duke. Purdue knocked off Memphis to get there. I'm going with Purdue to knock off Tennessee. I think Tennessee's going to, again, challenge Purdue, give them a run for their money. Purdue survives. They win by 3 points. Purdue knocks off the Tennessee Volunteers and goes to the Elite 8. But barely. As you can see, they're winning very close games, I think, Purdue. I think Purdue survives these games. Besides Texas Southern, the 1-16 matchup, they win a close one against Memphis. They win a close one against Tennessee. But they're ripe for an upset before they get to the Final Four. So let's see. So Purdue is going to beat Tennessee, gets to the Sweet 6, going to get to the Elite 8.
And then you have a Big East rematch here.
Yeah, Providence versus Marquette, 2 Big East schools who have gone on nice Cinderella runs before in the college tournament and in the NCAA tournament, in the Big Dance. I'm going with Marquette to continue their momentum.
He's going 1 versus 2, baby. 1 versus 2.
I'm going with Marquette, number 2, and they're taking a number 2 all on Providence. Marquette is going to edge out Providence. And
Ross out here like he's girlfriend number 2. I like it.
I like it. So it's going to be Marquette knocking off Providence. So it's going to be Purdue, number 1 seed, Boilermakers, versus 2 seed, Marquette out of the Big East. Big Ten champs versus Big East champs. Who will prevail? It's like Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose. Who knows? I'm going with drum roll, please.
Yes.
Marquette's gonna win. Number 1 seed, another number 1 seed goes down in flames. So as I told you, I had Alabama in the South, Houston in the Midwest, 2 number 1 seeds. Those are my only 2 number 1 seeds that go to the Final Four in Houston, Texas. I had in the West, Gonzaga knocking off number 1 seed Kansas. Gonzaga goes the 3 seed out of the West to the Final Four, and I have the 2 seed Marquette continues to go on their magical run, and I think they continue to stay hot. They're playing with so much momentum coming off that Big East championship run. And I think Marquette knocks off Purdue, who I think is going to win some close games against Memphis and Tennessee. Barely beat Penn State for that Big Ten championship just last weekend. And I think they're ripe for an upset. Marquette chops them down and knocks off the Purdue Boilermakers. Marquette is going to the Final Four. So my Final Four, the South's Alabama, Midwest is Houston, 2 number 1 seeds, number 2 seed Marquette out of the East, and number 3 seed Gonzaga out of the West. And let's see what you have to say, buddy.
Well, we didn't do this on purpose, but apparently we saved the best for last because my bracket and Ross's bracket look like 2 totally different people. Like, they could not be more different, but opposites attract, right? And that's why we do the show together. But here's the reality.
And that cat she was dancing with music video, that's what they said, opposites attract.
And that's the thing, is we are here with this one, and we definitely saved the best for last, as my East bracket looks like Ross and I were in totally different tournaments. So my first one here.
I think I might be on another universe. My picks. We weren't just in different tournaments. I might be on another planet, another galaxy with some of my insane picks. But as I said, I drank the Kool-Aid, and now I'm going to either deal with the repercussions, good or negative. I'm going to take it either way.
Yeah, one of our brackets is going to have a lot of red in it because they're different. So my East bracket, the 4th overall number 1 seed, Purdue, which always reminds me of my dog Mordew. I'm going with Purdue, the number 1 seed here, to win this game over Texas, Southern, or FDU. I picked Fairleigh Dickinson, and this is a very strange world. Fairleigh Dickinson advanced to the tournament after Merrimack was the number 1 team in the NEC and won the conference tournament of the NEC, but there's a 4-year purgatory for a team to go from Division II to Division I in reclassification, which is a big...
Yeah. They deserve to get going. It's ridiculous that they're not allowed to go. They're the champions of that conference.
It's a BS rule. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. And Fairleigh Dickinson is in the tournament because of this very weird rule. But
that rule needs to be changed. I'm hoping the NCAA does the right thing and changes it soon. But if you know the NCAA, if they do change it, it'll probably take them another 5 to 10 years, just like the college football playoff, to get to the 12-team playoff. That's taken forever, and now finally in 2024 we'll get that. So it probably will get changed if there's enough uproar from the media and from the fans, but it's going to take a while. Things move slowly.
Yeah, and the reality of it all is if players can now move with no year in residency, then schools should be able to move without any year in residency. Because, by the way, the NEC of Division I men's basketball, the NEC has taken any 10 teams, which is where Lemoyne is. And if Lemoyne were to leave and go Division I, as I've been covering exclusively and being the first place for you to go to for all of this information from the athletic director Bob Beretta and president Dr. Linda Lemura, as well as what the coaches think and so on and so forth, as I've covered this for almost a year now, we've talked about it. The NE10 of Division II, one of the best conferences in multiple sports in Division II. Merrimack was in that division with Lemoyne. They went Division I to the NEC. And then Stonehill went this past year Division I to the NEC. In just men's basketball alone, the NEC had Merrimack in the top, number 1, in their 4th year there. And Stonehill, in their 1st year in Division I, are 3rd in the NEC. And if Lemoyne were to go somewhere, Bob Beretta and I spoke about the MAC, the MAAC, or the NEC being the best fits. And the NEC, I know the commissioner there, and Noreen Morris, she's a fantastic guest to have on the show. Love her vision and love having her on and love talking with her. She sees what the NE10's doing. So I would imagine that they're at least looking at Lemoyne after bringing in Merrimack and Stonehill and seeing how these Division II schools automatically were credible to them, made their conference better. And this season alone, Merrimack #1 in Division I men's basketball when it comes to the NEC, and #3 Stonehill, just to make mention of that. Back to the action here. Purdue over Fairleigh Dickinson. I got Fairleigh Dickinson winning the play-in game, and I have them winning the play-in game. They're playing Texas Southern, who's typically a 16 seed whenever they come in. And Texas Southern, shout out for making the tournament more than once. But let me say something about Texas Southern. They are the only team coming into this tournament with a losing record. They're 14-20, but they won their conference. So I am going with FDU, but Purdue over them. Next game that we have up here, Memphis. I'm going with those Memphis Tigers and Penny Hardaway. I've gotten to spend time with them over the years, including in the COVID year, and appreciate all that Penny's done coming back to his alma mater. And here's some irony. FAU and Memphis are going to be in the same conference next year in the American, as Conference USA loses 6 schools to the American, who will now have more schools than they've ever had all together. And I appreciate that so very much. I'm looking forward to it, as well as I'm looking forward to the Conference USA rebuilding. It's unfortunate the American has to, and when one conference has to rebuild, it means another one or another two has to rebuild. So FAU and Memphis will be playing each other in conference next season. This season, they're meeting in the 8-9 matchup. Memphis got screwed. They should have been a 6 or a 7. Memphis is going to win this game and move on. They are a team of destiny right now. We'll talk about it. The next one, Duke and Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts has a shot in this. Duke is riding a 9-game winning streak. Oral Roberts' winning streak is longer than that. They've done some good things in the tournament in recent history. I believe that this 5-12 matchup might be one of the most dangerous ones next to the College of Charleston, where I picked the College of Charleston. But I'm going with the Duke Blue Devils. John Shire's got this team believing in something special. He's got a great relationship with his kids. I've seen it firsthand, and they've done a fantastic job. They got a lot of talent. They got a lot of guys. They got some guys that don't have to do anything in the game, and they're still going to win that game. So Duke has depth, and Duke is going to move on, although I think this matchup's going to be a good one. The next one here we have is Tennessee over Louisiana. The Ragin' Cajuns are going to have their spice get a little bit bitter there. It's not going to work out here. It's going to be watered down as the Tennessee Volunteers will take this victory over Louisiana. And Kentucky over Providence. I like Ed Cooley. I like Providence. I like what they've done over the years, and I like that they've been back in the tournament. But I got Kentucky moving on with John Calipari. I do.
Come on, I can't stand John Calipari.
I know
you have to give it up to him, but yeah. He loves the one and done players. If his school goes one and done in the tournament, that would make my difference.
Well, his school has not been great in these last few years. It's been clear that they really haven't been the team that they used to be. And when Coach K was still coaching, he was bringing in those guys that were one and done instead of Kentucky. So I'm going with Kentucky over Providence. Kansas State over Montana State in this matchup as well. I got Kansas State moving on here. And let's see what Kansas State can do as they have an opportunity to face off against Kentucky. And then I have Michigan State and USC. USC, one of those teams that they said, just got in on the skin of their teeth. So we look at USC, we look at Tom Izzo. It's hard to go up against Izzo in the tournament, but I think USC is going to get them in this one. So I have USC, the 10 seed, winning over Michigan State, bumping them out early. And the Marquette Golden Eagles, who would have thought, when you thought Big East Tournament finale, championship, Madison Square Garden, that the two teams left standing are named Marquette and Xavier. But it happened, and Marquette came in as the 1 seed, and they won the tournament. That doesn't always happen in the Big East, where they still let them play basketball and be physical. So Marquette is going forward in this one. I got the Golden Eagles flying high past Vermont. Although, I think it's a little bit of a scary 215 because of what Vermont can do and because they can make them threes. So we'll see what happens here. I told you, folks, my bracket is different than Ross's, but I'm also going to tell you, folks, my bracket of the East, like Ross's, is the one that is the giant playground. This is Chuck E. Cheese's ball pit to every pit of your imagination. This is where we go. Purdue, Memphis. Who's going to go? I told you I told you the number 1 seeds in the bottom of my bracket were in a danger zone, and I told you Memphis was a team of destiny. The Memphis Tigers will be moving on, passing the Purdue Boilermakers as Memphis goes to the next round and into the Sweet 16.
I love it because Penny is one of my childhood idols. I wish if he would have stayed healthy, he would have been one of the next great point guards, like up there with Magic Johnson. So I'm glad doing having so much success at Memphis. I love Memphis going deep in this tournament.
Yeah, Memphis moving on in this tournament. Memphis will play an all-blue Sweet 16 as the Duke Blue Devils will move forward and face off against the Memphis Tigers, another team that's been riding a high here, and they getting the win over Oral Roberts and over Tennessee, I believe will give them 11 wins in a row. And then we have Kentucky and Kansas State. This is a tough one, folks. And I know that John Calipari, wherever he went, they got in trouble. He didn't. And he kept getting a pay raise every time, allegedly, he did something wrong. But I got the Kentucky Wildcats moving on here. So I have, so far, an all-blue Sweet 16 in the East region. Memphis, Duke, Kentucky. So who makes it out of here? We're either going golden or we're going Trojan red here. USC, Marquette. I'm going with those Marquette Golden Eagles to fly high and make it past here. That means, folks, in my last 4 that remain in the East, I am taking an 8 seed, a 5 seed, a 6 seed, and a 2 seed. And with Memphis and Duke, Kentucky, and Marquette, let's have some fun with this one, folks. Do you believe? I do. Memphis will be moving on past Duke as Memphis continues on here into the world's Elite 8 out of the East region. And I'm going with an all in this East region. I'm going with M&M, baby. Memphis versus Marquette for the right to go to the Final Four. I have Memphis and Marquette in my bracket, like Ross's, my most interesting bracket, and my bracket that could either get busted early or Ross and I could be 2 of the smartest people on the planet. We'll see what happens from here as we have Memphis up against Marquette in this matchup. And what do I think is going to happen? Well, I told you that I would not have a number 1 seed, and I don't. It's an 8 seed who was misseeded and should have been seeded better versus a 2 seed. And folks, for this bracket, I believe Memphis is a fantastic team and could be the darlings of the American as we step forward, especially with Penny Hardaway staying and building a program. But the Marquette Golden Eagles and my man Shaka Smart, who VCU, that's why I became a fan in the beginning, VCU to Texas to Marquette, Shaka is back to Shaka the world. And I have Shaka Smart and the Marquette Golden Eagles moving on to the Final Four. That leaves me with Alabama 1 seed, Houston 1 seed, Gonzaga 3 seed, and Marquette 2 seed advancing.
Final Four. It took us different routes to get there, but what's crazy to believe, again, it's not us just lying or putting on a fake facade for all the people listening. We did not talk about what our bracket would be before the show, and we somehow, in the end, even with some of the different upsets that I picked, that you didn't have and you had that I didn't have, in the end we ended up with the same Final Four. 2 1 seeds and then a 2 seed in Marquette and a 3 seed in Gonzaga going to Houston, Texas for the Final Four. So it's crazy. In the end we ended up with the Final Four teams exactly the same.
Yeah, we didn't see each other's bracket before this. So Ross, tell me, Alabama, Marquette, Houston versus Gonzaga. We have the same Final Four, which I think is really awesome because we got there very different ways, like you said. Who do you have winning?
Before I quickly leave the Final Four, I just saw there was breaking news. One of our guys that we kind of root for, even though people misunderstand was a little bit cocky and insane, Baker Mayfield just signed a 1-year, $8.5 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go up against Kyle Trask to see who's going to replace Tom Brady as the new quarterback in Tampa Bay. So, interesting news. Baker Mayfield played well for the LA Rams after he struggled for the Panthers early last year, had some good years with the Browns, then some struggles with them. He will now be a new quarterback, possibly the starter, if he beats out Trask for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting quarterback job. So just wanted to throw that out there, but we root for Baker Mayfield. I root for him as a smaller, tinier guy. I root for the underdog. But yes, Final Four. Semifinals on April Fool's Day in Houston, Texas. Alabama Crimson Tide against the 1 seed versus the number 2 seed Marquette Golden Eagles. Drum roll, please. I'm going with Alabama. I just think in the end, Marquette has been on a wild ride. They're red hot. They're dangerous. I think they believe they can beat anyone, and they probably can beat anyone. And like in any given Sunday situation, in a single elimination tournament like this, I think they're on one of those tracks where they could beat anyone. They could win the championship. I wouldn't be shocked. But I think in the end, Alabama just has too much. They have too much power on offense. They're just too explosive. They have too much talent, and I think Alabama, the cream will rise to the top. I think Alabama will edge out Marquette. Marquette will keep it close, but I'm going with Alabama to win a close game. I would probably say 69-66. Alabama wins by 3 over Marquette to go to the national championship game. And then for my other semifinal, the Houston Cougars, the other number 1 seed versus number 3 seed Gonzaga. Can Gonzaga finally get over the hump? Can they get the championship game and win it? In their star big man's last run in the national championship for the national championship in his final year of college basketball. Can Mark Few finally get it done? They're going to make it close, but in the end, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Houston, they're too powerful. I think Gonzaga keeps it close for a while, but in the end, like you're seeing some of these games, some of these teams will keep it close. Gonzaga can't compete with anyone, but I think Houston has way too much firepower to compete with, and I think Houston will pull away in the second half. And I'm going to say Houston wins by 12 points, knocks by 12 points, knocks off Gonzaga, and I'm going to go for the national championship game. Houston versus Alabama, 1 seed versus 1 seed, Crimson Tide versus the Cougars. I'm going with Houston to win the national championship. The Houston Cougars, who were the number 1 team in the country for a while this year, and I think have been the best team consistently week after week in college basketball this year. And I'm going to go with Houston against Alabama, 2 star-studded teams with lots of talent, lots of scoring ability. I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring, very exciting game. I'll even give you a score. They haven't usually given a score in these brackets. I'll go with Houston to edge out Alabama Crimson Tide in the national championship game, 69-65. They win by 4 points. Houston wins the national championship game on Monday, April 3rd at home at Houston, Texas, and they will be your new national champions for 2023 in college basketball. What say you, buddy?
I love it. I think it's great, and I think it's awesome. And again, I love the fact that we do this blind to each other's picks. I don't know Ross's picks. He doesn't know my picks. Again, I didn't know his Final Four. He didn't know my Final Four, and we picked the same Final Four. We have not done this in a while. It hasn't happened like this in the sense of us picking the same Final Four. So here we go as we take a look at my Final Four, which is the same as Ross's. And so as we look at the Final Four and what I have going on here, we have the same 4 teams that are going to appear on your screen, but do Ross and I have the same thoughts. As Bama takes on Marquette, this is a game that I think this could be a really good game. Now, Alabama, they've been a strong team. They've been number 1 in the nation for a bit. And then you have Houston on the other side, who's been number 1 in the nation for a bit. So those 2 number 1 seeds, then you got 2-seeded Marquette, you got 3-seeded Gonzaga. So you look at this and you say to yourself, which team is going to make it out of this thing alive? Who's going to do it? Who's going to be the victor in this sense? And this is a tough one to call, but I said it, and it's, when I got asked on the show last night, they said, can you give us anything? I said, I can. I said, way before this tournament, weeks ago, I felt really good about Houston. And if for nothing else, I think about that. I think about the team that's on my mind. When people ask me about my bracket before any seedings, before conference tournament champions, before any of that was done, my mind said Houston. So on the other side of it, Bama and Marquette, I like the Big East. I like what Marquette's doing, but I think that Alabama's going to do a little bit more here, and Alabama's going to get the victory in this matchup. I think they might pull away by 10 or more in this game. And on the other side of it, like I said, I've been thinking Houston for a long time. Gonzaga, I love them. They'll win a championship someday with Mark Few. I believe they can do it, but I'm going with Houston and Alabama, as Ross said, and I am picking the same thing here. And here's the interesting thing. If you've seen the movie Draft Day, folks, and if you haven't, please go out and see it. There's a wonderful movie with Kevin Costner called Draft Day, and I think it's arguably the Cleveland.
Bozeman's in it too. It's a heck of a movie. I definitely would recommend. I love that movie.
And I think that it's arguably, next to getting Ernie Davis and Jim Brown, it's the best draft the Browns never had. And so when we look at the
then he got like a bunch of picks. Then he got his picks back. Then he traded for a special teams player. He then went with that Bryce Drew.
Give me David Putney. Why? Because I feel like it. Give me David Putney. Why? Because I friggin' feel like it. That's what I
love it. The cockiness and the moxie of Kevin Costner. And I just love it. Pre-Yellowstone, before everyone now goes crazy for his Yellowstone show, it's a heck of a movie. Dennis Leary's even in it. And another amazing talented actor who was gone way too soon, the late, great Chadwick Boseman's in it, and he does a terrific job. Even Terry Crews is in the movie. He does his little peck booby dances. He's in the movie. So there's a lot of great people, underrated people. Jennifer Garner's in it as the love interest and partner and companion for Kevin Costner. It's a great movie.
Yeah, so here we are, and why did I mention Draft Day? I mentioned Draft Day because Kevin Costner in the movie has a Post-it note. And on that Post-it note, Vontae Mack's name is on it, and Vontae Mack is played by Chadwick Boseman. And that says, Vontae, no matter what. And I told you that weeks ago, I looked at number 1 ranked Houston, and I said to myself, before the season even started, when they played Syracuse, and I got that entire part of the bracket right, and I said Syracuse will get this far, which a lot of people didn't have them getting that far, but I said Houston will beat them, and Houston beat them. And then I thought again to myself in recent history last year, I thought, Houston, that's a Final Four team. They keep getting one step closer. They keep moving one step farther. And this is the year that I believe that they move themselves into the position that I have believed that they could get to these last couple of years. The Houston Cougars, I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking, based on what I've seen from Kelvin Sampson, based on what I've seen from this team, that this is a team that has been just taking that next step. It is time to take the next step. So what does my Post-it note say in the Cafe Kubal Studios on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora? It said before the bracket even came out, Houston, no matter what. The Houston Cougars are my champion, and they are the team that I believe is the team of destiny more than anybody else this year. I'm going with Houston. Bring back Sasser. Let's make it happen. Let's win it for them, or let's win it with them. Whatever it may be, they're going to do this. Houston Cougars. I have a score. And my score for the Houston Cougars is very close to yours, buddy. It's not that far off here. 71-68 is my score. A 3-pointer, the difference in a game that will come down to the 2 number 1 teams in the country facing off against each other. Bama knows what it's like to be number 1. Houston knows what it's like to be number 1. Ranked by the media, ranked by the coaches, and these 2 number 1s will figure out who will be number 1 at the end of it all. And Houston will tell Alabama and the world that not only is the American an awesome conference to play in, but the Houston Cougars came for something that they didn't get last year. They remembered, they walked into the room and they forgot something. Well, they came back to get it. This year, the Houston Cougars do what they need to do, something I think they were capable of last year and maybe even before that. 71-68, they take down Alabama in one of the greatest moments in Houston basketball history, proving that Kelvin Sampson has truly resurrected this entire basketball program at Houston. The Big 12 is getting a fantastic team, but not before the American Athletic Conference gets to say that Houston won it as a part of their league. 71-68, like I said, the Post-it note in my, and if anybody was in my brain these last 3 to 5 weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks, if anybody was with me, around me, and paying attention, you knew it was Houston no matter what. That's what my Post-it note said, and that's what I'm going with, the Houston Cougars to win the championship.
I like it, and I love the reference to draft day, that it's going to be Houston no matter what, and I think I agree with you. I think that's what's going to be the end result. I think it's going to be a heck of a tournament. I hope we get lots of upsets, whether it be my upsets, your upsets, or anyone's upsets. I hope we have lots of upsets. Lots of brackets that have to get torched in flames within the first 5 minutes of the tournament. I'm hoping for just chaos, buzzer beaters, Cinderella slippers. I'm hoping for big upsets. And in the end, I know it's 1 versus 1, Alabama, Houston over Alabama to win the national title. It's a number 1 seed winning it. But even though there's all these top seeds who are going to end up being meeting up in the championship game and deciding who's going to be the ultimate winner, it's going to be a heck of a journey. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. We have March Madness. It's back. And after all the craziness we've had and how divided a lot of the country is, and just 3 short years ago, we had no tournament. Sports world went dark. You're talking about a darkness retreat. There was no sports for months and months, and now we are out of that, and we get to unite together as people and be one. And I always like to say this: we are more alike than we are different. Even if you agree, disagree politically, in whatever you do, whether even that silly thing from years ago, what color the dress was, any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. We are more alike than we are different. I believe that most people are good, and we choose goodness over over evilness, over being an evil rose and letting your beloved Jack die. I believe in that, and I think it's going to be a heck of a tournament. I can't wait to see the fans in the stands, all the parties of people with their brackets, set them on fire and enjoying it all the way. I hope it's chaotic. I hope there's lots of buzzer beaters and Cinderella upsets. And I'm just excited because the Madness of March is officially back, and I'm so pumped. I know there's 2 more playing games today, but it truly will be special when you get that Walkman on, relive your memories. High noon, 12 o'clock tomorrow, it starts all the way past midnight the next day. It's going to be 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Thursday and Friday, the 2 best days of the whole college basketball tournament, probably the 2 best days in all of sports, and it's going to happen starting tomorrow, and I can't wait, and I'm so excited. I'm very thrilled that we got to do the drive again. For over a decade we've been doing this, and I wouldn't have a better partner to do it each and every year. I'm very happy and very honored and humbled that we get to do this each and every year together.
I am so happy and humbled by it and appreciative of it as well. Ross Turetsky joining me here for The Drive, capital D and capital R for Dan and Ross. We've been doing it, like Ross said, for many, many, many years, and the bracket unveiling has officially happened. You saw Ross's bracket. You saw my bracket. He knows mine. I know his now, and the world knows our brackets. We have the same Final Four. We got there differently. The same championship game. We got there differently. And when we put it all together, we both picked Houston. Kelvin Sampson. I had a feeling of these last 3 years that eventually you were going to make me right. This is the year that it happens. Kelvin Sampson, great job, great work, awesome stuff, love it all. This is going to be a great tournament. I can't wait for this. Shout out to my guy, Jason Leone, who brought his team to the Elite Eight for the first time ever in Oswego State men's basketball history in the Division III tournament of over 400 schools trying to get in, of over 40 different conferences. He's down at the first 4, seeing his buddy with Fairleigh Dickinson, some people that he knows down there. So shout out to them for that. Shout out to Albany for getting some great games. Shout out to Pittsburgh for returning to Greensboro with another crack at it as they win the first 4, so they go back to Greensboro where they just were last week for the ACC tournament. If you pay attention, the stories are endless. They're incredible. Cinderella's slipper will be put on in the next few weeks. You will get to see majesty, magic, buzzer beaters, games where you literally are on the edge of your seat for 2 teams you might have never watched before in your entire life. This is the single greatest moment in sports all year long next to the Super Bowl. Enjoy it.
It's just like the song that they wrap it up with, the One Shining Moment song from Luther Vandross. It's a great way to summarize this tournament. It's going to be a shining moment for all these kids, these young adults. This might be their moment of their lifetime for the next 50, 60 years, however long they live. This will be their shining moment, and I think they're going to shine in so many ways, and I can't wait, though.
It's going to be great. I'm so excited. And Ross, I think since we call it The Drive, which is our way of saying that we bring you all the way to the end, I think I'm going to have you back a bunch of times during the tournament if you want to do it.
I would love to. Anytime you need me, let me know, and I'll get LJ, and he'll come along with me, and we'll have a great time. And I will always, whether it be driving or be your passenger, your sidekick, whether it be Batman, Robin, I don't care. I'll be Oscar Grouch in the garbage can. As long as I can be by you and I can be your sidekick for a couple hours on radio, I'd be more than happy to do that anytime. Just reach out, and I'm always there. We have our arson and coke. That bond will never break.
Absolutely. And I'm going to just correct you on one thing. No sidekick, co-host, 50-50. So that coming from Ross Turetsky, my co-host. I love some coach is going to be yelling that during one of these games.
Jamie Dixon. We talked about Jamie Dixon, the former kick coach, not TCU coach. Jamie!
I think we should go. I think we should go to the TCU game just so we could sit behind the bench and yell Jamie. I think that would be fantastic.
It would be so great. I definitely keep turning around and probably get security, get those weirdos out of the way. They could be dangerous. So
if you're gonna be down in Denver, Colorado, do it before the game where he can laugh and it has nothing to do with the game itself.
Before the game as well. Scream out maybe, and see what happens. I can't guarantee you might be thrown out of the game. You might have thrown away.
He might punch you in the face. Yeah, he might punch you in the face. So Jamie Dixon, big fan, love seeing him. Last time I saw him was at Summer League for the NBA. So big shout out to Jamie Dixon. Our worldwide 2023 NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament bracket unveiling has happened today. Once again on the Drive, your show to drive you through the entire tournament. Stay here with us inside a Wake Up Call as we will continue to drive you all the way to the national championship as Ross and I will bring you through every wonderful, wonderful tears of joy moment and every heartbreaking moment of this NCAA tournament, Ross. I can't wait to be with you in this, and I appreciate you as always. More than a friend, a brother, and I love you. I love the family, and there's no better person to do this with, so thank you for that.
Thank you, buddy. It is my pleasure. It was a great time. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Have a great time. It's spring, so even though it's snowing a bunch in PA where I am and in Syracuse, we're going to have nicer weather. And by the way, I know I'm a sicko. I love college basketball. Baseball is back. Well, Baseball Classic USA needs to win today over. They need to win their game over Columbia to get to the next round. They're going to have the champion's going to be Tuesday, the 21st of March. Is going to be World Baseball Classic. Very excited, like World Cup of Baseball. The countries against each other, and then opening day is March 30th. We're 15 days away. Just 2 weeks from tomorrow is opening day. Play ball, games that count. Even though it's going to be sick and cold and crazy, it's going to be frigid. It's going to be cold. But I can't wait. Baseball is back. And I know you think I'm insane, but I made my crazy picks in the tournament that are insane. I'm very pumped. Baseball's here, and so spring, warm weather's here, baseball weather is here, and we have a lot of great moments to come. And by the way, I'm also the Luzerne County Community College baseball head coach.
Yes.
I'm looking for players, looking for teams to play against, but definitely looking for players to fill out a roster. Anyone who wants to play for this crazy guy, DJ Roscoe, Ross Turetsky, anyone who wants to play for me, Luzerne County Community College baseball, you hit me up, find me on Facebook, and we will connect, and hopefully we'll join forces and have a great baseball team. We'll start from scratch because we're on a program that has not had a team or any real sports since COVID hit, and they haven't had a team since 2019, 4 years ago. So we are building it back up from the ground floor foundation.
Build it like UAB did it.
Luzerne County Community College, and I hope we have lots of success along the way.
Build it like UAB. They didn't have their football program for a couple years. They came back. They've been bowl eligible for 6 straight seasons. So let's resurrect this wonderful baseball team, turn it into something special. There's no better person to do it. And if anybody's going to succeed, it's going to be Ross Turetsky, because people want to be around good, honest, hardworking people that mean what they say and say what they mean. Morals, values, lessons, knowledge, wisdom, experience. You get it all with Ross, and a whole lot of faith and hope. So if you want something to believe in, make sure you get in touch with Ross, be a part of this baseball team, and be a part of history. I never thought that I would have one of my best friends that I didn't meet in coaching would be my friend for so many years, be a brother to me, and then become a coach. I am so excited. I'm an immediate fan. I love the logo. And as soon as he gets the gear, I know that I'm going to be literally draped in the
Trailblazer going, and there's a mascot, a horsey mascot who comes to the games, and that's our logo. It's pretty cool. I think we should have a baseball like in flames, like on fire, and throwing some high heat, and going to win some ball games on that diamond. So I can't wait to give out the gear, and hopefully we're ready to go for fall ball and for spring next season. I'm going to recruit the local high school games all around the area. And anyone who wants to join forces in Nanticoke, PA, we're here at Luzerne County Community College, so I'm very excited. And the high school baseball games are starting soon, so I'm going to try my hat at recruiting and try to get people to join the program. So I'm very excited about that.
Luzerne County Community College, you could go onto their website now and see Ross's name as the head coach of this baseball team, which I am so ecstatic, and I love it so much.
There's my school email address on it too. So it's like rturetsky@luzerne.edu. They finally got that squared away. So that's the school email address. It's right there on the website. So click on that. And if you're interested in joining or just want to see what it's all about, take a look and send me a message.
That coming from Ross Turetsky, head coach, Luzerne County Community College baseball program. I love it. I appreciate it. I'm excited about it. And I never know how to say see you later, but I will see you later. And I love talking with you, brother. And we will talk as we drive through this tournament together. Your only home for the NCAA tournament is right here on Wake Up Call with The Drive, featuring myself and Ross Turetsky. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, and I love you.
I love you 3000 and Jeremy! See you later. Enjoy the madness of March, buddy.
Take care. I'll talk to you soon.